gentlemen, we're up here in the kitchen, Rotie's kitchen, with our first official special guests.
Can everyone clap it up for Max and Dylan?
Clap it up for Max and Dylan. They have walked into the kitchen, but remember, if you can't handle the heat, don't enter the kitchen. This is the place where the takes are hot and the boys are even hotter, gentlemen.
Yeah.
Oh.
And I gotta
It
ask
is
you
getting
guys,
hot in here, so take
I
off
gotta
all
ask you
your
guys, how have
clothes.
you been enjoying the summer so far?
Summer's
Good.
been a blast, guys. How have you been?
No complaint. Another day, another dollar.
Look, how have you guys felt about the summer hockey? Anything you guys want to start us off with?
I think there's been a lot that's gone on, a lot of crazy moves. We'll definitely get into a lot of what's happened. I've seen some crazy signings, some wacky trades. I'm sure you guys can agree. And
I
I'm
mean, it was just
excited
a
to
shame
deep
that
it,
all
go
of
into
the
it.
things that everyone was excited about free agency for happened before July 1st. So
Oh,
kind of
yeah.
once July 1st actually took place, it was pretty dry, except for, the Florida stuff took place on that day. Like it was still an interesting day, all things considered, but it wasn't which I feel like always happens. It wasn't what we were
Hey, you got to
anticipating it to
protect your
be.
player before they hit the market.
Absolutely. Before we get the actual show on the road and get into our agenda of what we want to break down, I'm gonna go to each of you and I want you guys to tell a little bit, introduce yourself, say your name, and tell us a little bit about yourself. Why should we care about what you have to say? Dylan, we'll start it off with you.
So my name is Dylan Geist. I actually had a podcast about sports called Dillcast back in the day. Had some of these guys on the show.
Had Sean
I
McKenzie on the show.
Sean
Oh, yeah.
McKenzie on the show, big Sportsnet guy, and so I have a lot to say about sports. You may like it, you may not like it, but I'm a big sports guy: hockey, basketball, football. Talk to me about anything in those sports, and I could give you
Swiss
my
Army
take
knife
on
over
it.
here.
This guy does it all.
Swiss Army knife, that's what they call me. On the golf course as well. Max, let's go down to you.
Oh.
Absolutely.
All
right. My name is
Well,
Max.
Maximus, talk to
Oh,
me.
my name is Max. I'm Dylan's brother. I may also have had a bit of a podcast going on, influenced a bit off of Dylan, but that's okay. I'm also into a lot of sports. I've been following hockey for a long time, so I think what I have to say might be a little bit valuable. You may not like it, but I don't really care. It's my opinion.
Well,
Right
look,
guy, I'm
you're looking
ready.
at the
Hell
rotten take
yeah,
Right, I'm
brother.
looking at right guy.
We could handle some rotten takes in the kitchen.
Oh.
Hopefully not too rotten.
Hey, sometimes we can't let that bread get rotten, guys. We got to keep it in the freezer.
Absolutely. Well, the
What?
main reason we wanted to get you guys here, it's now been about 2 weeks since free agency, the free agent frenzy. We have an episode coming out on Rotie's Kitchen about our thoughts on all the major signings of free agency. But now that the dust has settled a little bit, we want to talk to you guys about kind of in a grander scheme of things, your thoughts on the winners and the losers of the offseason before we start previewing what we think is going to happen in the 2025-2026 NHL season. So with that being said, I think the first order of business, let's go around the room and talk about who do we think is our main winner of the offseason. And I'm going to add a little bit of a rule that you cannot say an answer that has already been said. Let's let our guest, the guests start
Go first.
The guests get to start first.
Okay.
Max, I'll let you tee off.
I'll go. I'm pretty split in between two teams here. I feel like they're pretty obvious. Maybe even three to be honest. But I'm going to go with Florida. There's a few
That
teams.
is the easy
Yeah,
answer.
yeah.
It's the easy answer. Yes, I know you guys probably have some more in-depth answers than me, so I'm gonna go plain answer. I'm gonna go Florida. They re-signed their guys. There's not much else to say about that. I'm sure you guys got into this already, but they snagged Ekblad at that 6 year, 6.1. He would have gone
Ridiculous, yeah.
at least 8 on the open market, maybe a bit more.
Yeah.
Marchand, I like the AAV. It's an LTIR type contract. It's what we the least 2 at 10 of last year, and
It's just
nothing
what
can't be
it's
punished
the
for it.
40.
what
43.
guys are doing. It's what they're doing
Yeah.
in order to keep the AAV low. It's a smart move because for them, okay, sure, they're going to have to pay an extra year when he's probably not going to be playing at least not impactful minutes. But that's what it's going to take to get, hopefully, another ring or two on the Florida Panthers' fingers. And I think they take that gamble any day of the week. If I was going first, I was probably going to be saying Florida as well. Dylan, I imagine you the same thing because They checked off every box they needed to check off to make this offseason a win. They didn't really need to go after any outside fish because they're the team that has won
Yeah,
back-to-back Stanley Cups. They
and
need to
and
keep all their cooks
and,
in the
and
kitchen.
Jared, you look at their core. You go on a website like PUBG. You look at their core. They have I have in my notes. They have a core 10 guys. They have Seth
Yeah.
Jones, Aaron Ekblad, Forsling, Barkov, Kachuk, Verhaeghe, Reinhardt, Bennett, Marchand Lundell, all locked up for at least I believe 5 years.
Till
They're
2030,
the
yeah.
they're the team to beat for until then. Maybe the sky comes falling down 2030, but they don't care if they win another 5 cups. They could screw off for decades. This team, they just
Yeah.
won back-to-back cups, and with a core like that, they're going to be competitive again and again and again and again. Marchand, these older guys, Marchand, Jones, they're not going to just go away. They're scrappy. They make
That's true,
plays.
yeah.
They're always going to be hard to
Talent,
play.
exactly.
They're what
Talent
the
like that
Boston
cannot
Bruins
go
used to
away.
be. They are the Boston Bruins who
Yeah.
got you winning cups.
So Max, I got a question for you. So
Mm-hmm.
because they signed all their guys, they now are,
Yeah.
I want to confirm this number, but about 7 million
They're
cap.
yeah, they are.
So they
And
need
that's scary. Yeah.
they need to move some guys. Who's your guy that's on his way out?
Yeah, that's the only thing that's a little bit scary with this team. But looking at the roster, like with the piggyback off of what Don said, there's not much they like even if they trade like hold on, give me a second, let me pull it up. Even if they traded like
All right, I was
Evan
wrong.
Rodriguez.
3.725.
Yes, I know, not that much. Like
So that's
even
what
if they
I
trade like
Totally manageable.
that's
if
what I
they
had in
trade
my that's what I had thinking. Rodriguez is the guy I believe that's
yes.
gonna get them
Rodriguez and
there.
E2
Yeah.
Luosterainen are both
If
making
they
3 million for 2 more years. I'll say E2 Luosterainen would look hella nice in a Leafs jersey.
I can't see them moving on from him.
I absolutely
He
don't.
had
The
a
more likely guy is Evan
fantastic
Rodriguez,
offseason.
who
Playoff
Leafs
season.
legend, never played a game with the Leafs.
Oh yeah.
Traded to the Leafs.
He was in that trade, the Penguins
Yeah.
trade, I remember.
Asbury Kapanen trade.
Yes,
And
sir.
then the unfortunate news, guys, is like Rodriguez, like a trade like that, that's just gonna make their draft picks like comparable to other contenders. Sure,
Yeah.
they don't have like they have like one third round pick the next like 3 years, let's say, probably not that drastic, but they're gonna get cap value for him because he's won 2 Stanley Cups and he's been a really strong member of that team. They're gonna trade him. They're gonna get a prospect picks back and be right back.
Okay,
Content,
picks
still
plural
contending.
might be crazy for like I get he's a cup winning third liner, but he's still like a third,
Look,
fourth liner.
where-
He's a
I
second
agree
rounder
with
at
Bill.
at most.
Look at his
Rodriguez
finals,
was first line.
this year.
I do agree. He's had moments and flashes where he has stepped up in the playoffs. I agree
Yeah.
he's going to get some nice value back.
He's
I'm
gonna
not
get a high third.
Look,
High
he's a
third.
second. I think he's a second in my eyes.
I think high third.
Look,
I
it
think-
depends when.
I think at his
It
age,
depends
it
when.
also mainly depends on the team that's going to be doing it.
Remember, we paid a first plus. I'm not gonna say a top prospect in Gurbenkin.
Yeah.
It depends on what.
But that
time
was
you're also
the
doing.
trade market was so inflated at that time.
Of
Like
course,
we traded a first and minted for Carlo, which looking back on that,
We're
I
talking
love
about
tell
the
you
that.
this,
trade
though.
dead-
I
we're
love
talking about
that
the trade
deal.
deadline. In this case,
Yes.
in order for Florida to meet the cap floor before the start of the season, they're going to need to do an off-season trade. It does
There.
appear to be that Evan Rodriguez is the odd man out, most
I-
likely. And if that
Jared-
happens, they're trading him at a time where it's not a lot of pressure. It's not like
hmm
it's not
You're
like
totally
people are
right.
really desperate. It's not as much as we
Exactly.
need to shore up our team before the playoffs. So I don't think
You're
it's
totally right.
picks plural, but I do think they're going to get something nice.
I think a
would say
second is super realistic in my opinion.
I'm going to say more like a third and maybe
Yes.
level prospect. Still think a first or second round pick for a bottom six forward is a deal you're going to be making, knowing that you're going to regret that deal. Like that's not going to age well by any means.
And it's
So I
not-
think
guys. Sorry. Go ahead, Max. Go ahead.
so, yeah. What you all guys were saying, it's Rodriguez. He's probably the odd man out. I could also see them flipping a guy like Kulikov because even with Rodriguez out, they're still 725K above because of
What is
that.
Kulikov?
I wanna
They can
say
send
probably
guys
gets-
down. They can send guys
But
down.
they could send guys down. I could see them moving on from Kulikov potentially with the 3-year 1.15. They have guys like Balinskis and potentially a Petrie. I think what's going to happen with Petrie is what happened with Schmidt and OEL the years before. That's what a lot of people are speculating. So yes, maybe Kulikov as well. But yes, I agree with all you guys. Rodriguez looks like he's the odd man out,
And,
and I think he'll get value because he was great in the playoffs. Dylan, yes.
another move that flew under the radar of our conversation is they brought back Semiskevich for the league mint. Like the
That's
guy,
what I was gonna bring up.
That
Yep.
was good.
It was so good
It's
for them.
So
He
good.
totally came out of nowhere, and he was
15
unbelievable.
goal season. 15 goal season, like as a rookie.
This
And
is
how
what
many games did he
happens
play?
when
He
players
deserved-
want to play on a Stanley Cup winning team, right? Like he's a
Mhm.
very young player. It's a 1-year deal.
1000%.
He knows he's not going to see as much minutes as he would on a team that wouldn't contend, but he wants to stay on a team, right? You
He
don't fix
For
it.
sure.
he was half a point per game with the Florida Panthers, and he played 72 games, and he was in A bit. This guy is going to be good, and Rodriguez is shipping out Rodriguez. I think they're going to get him on a cheap deal because of how much he loves the Stanley Cup winning culture, like Ryan guy said.
Exactly.
Absolutely. Now, unless any of you have anything else to say about these guys, the Florida Panthers, I think they're probably going to be the consensus pick off the board as the likely winner of the offseason. Checked off every box they needed to check off.
Yeah.
They completed the hat trick. But unless we have anything else to say about the Florida Panthers, Dylan, I want to hear from you. Who would you say, aside from the Florida Panthers, as your winner of the offseason?
Well, I think it's unironic that we're in Rotie's kitchen and it's getting hot in here, and Max has put me on the spot because there was nobody close on my list. Next to the Florida Panthers, it was a one and then a one up here, and then a 2, 3, 4 down there, right?
Okay.
So, I'm
You
definitely
can't
feeling the
compete with
heat
what Bill's
here.
filled in.
But-
Everything you need to do.
And so I have a couple teams here. I'm gonna throw out one, and maybe I'll throw it out the second one if you don't say it over there in Rotenberg land. So I'll throw up the Utah Mammoth. First of all, that Paterka trade was
I
fantastic.
absolutely like it.
Oh,
That Paterka trade was unbelievable. He wasn't gonna go back to Buffalo, and Utah took advantage of that. They did not need those two guys, Kesselring and Doan. Sure, they have a lot of potential, especially on a Sabre team that's not so strong. They'll get good minutes there, but they ironed out a hole that they had in their top six, and now it's really a disgusting team. I think this is the year they find the playoffs.
That's what
all
I was
I
going to
thought-
ask, because I agree with you. I was
Yeah.
going to go around the
Wow.
yes.
I believe they're going to make the playoffs. Sounds like Dylan believes they're going to make the playoffs. Ryan and Max, what about you guys? Are the Mammoths squeaking in the Central Division? I absolutely think there's room for them to squeak in. They are really, really good. I love
Look,
it.
I'll go first because it looks like your right guy's taking some time to think about it.
Yeah.
I just pulled up their daily face-off roster. They have potentially Paterka on line 2 with Schmaltz and Hayden, which I think is absolutely gross and dangerous, barring maybe a Schmaltz trade. I've seen some rumors, but looking at this roster, they picked up Brandon Tanev, which I absolutely love, and I would
Good ad for a
love for the
young,
Leafs.
scrappy team that wants to protect their top
100%,
guys. They're young.
1000%. They have O'Brien, Stenlin,
Nate
Tanev on
Schmidt
that
as well.
fourth line.
They got
I definitely
cup-winning
that's
Nate
what I was
Schmidt.
I
going-
definitely think they overpaid.
That's what I was
for
getting to.
Schmidt, but they have the money.
Schmidt. I like the
They
Schmidt deal,
have to overpay
and I
at
also
this
like
point, and they have the money to do it. They have money that other teams don't have. Why not flash your money around
Yeah.
a little bit and build up a team
100%.
that is winning
And
people?
I also
Exactly.
I also
exactly
think
what I'm saying.
McBain deal. I also think the underrated McBain deal. I know there's some arbitration going on there. I think they snagged him at a good 5 by 4.25 there. Third line center Hayden. I don't know what's going on with him. Maybe McBain will even bump up to that second line. But looking at this team and who's in the Central Division, I think there's a chance if they can maybe beat up the Wild. I don't know what's happening with Rotie right now.
I feel like
looking too good.
I think they're like
that's the major question.
That's a team to beat.
The 5 teams in the Central that made it. Can you see any of them coming out? Because if none of them come out, then Utah can't come in. There has to be obviously at least 3.
I
specific
absolutely
teams.
think the Minnesota Wild are. When I look at these rosters on
The
paper,
team to beat.
I think it's night and day. The Utah Mammoth are better. The one question I have for you is: are the Nashville Predators going to remain this bad forever? I do believe they're bound to bounce up.
It's going to be a bounce
They're
up.
not. Okay,
Bounce
the
up.
true Nashville Predators maybe aren't the team that's a consistent playoff team every single year, but they're also not a basement dwelling team every single year either. I think the real Nashville Predators is somewhere in the middle. I think they're more competition for the Utah Mammoth this year than the Minnesota Wild are. I don't really believe in the Wild. I don't think they're that scary of a team. I know Kyle, for example, or the other Rotenberg, the third Rotenberg, had them going all the way to the Cup Finals, and I think that's blasphemy. I am not a believer in the Minnesota Wild. I think
Hey,
I am a believer.
even the fact that it
I like the Wild.
I like their performance against Vegas, I will say.
100%. They took him, what, 6 games?
It
I
looked like they had him there for a bit.
look.
well, yeah,
I
they
don't
had them up
know
2-1.
what the deal is. What is going on with the Rossi situation?
Because that's the question.
They do not value
That's what scares me.
Rossi as
That's
a
what scares
legitimate
me.
player. They were playing the playoffs with Rossi as their fourth line center.
Yeah.
They
That
don't
was
see this guy. However, by making it so evident that you want to trade a player, their value diminishes.
So that's becoming a
100%.
consistent issue. We saw that with the Noah Dobson situation as well. What's
Yep.
with these GMs around the league having zero poker face?
It's like
they make it so publicly known they don't value these
Turco as
players,
well.
and then it just
Yeah.
lowers their value. Like all they're doing is shooting themselves in the
he
foot.
put up something along the lines of 60 points this season. He's a good player. He's young. He's still 23. I don't mind trading him, but by making it so evident you want to trade him so bad, there's a reason why a trade hasn't been done because they're not getting the offers that they expected to get
100%.
a 60-point player that's still young.
Yeah.
Look, he's small. I give them that.
I like Marco Rossi. I think my opinion, the
guy hasn't even gone to his prime yet. He's 23, right?
The chances of Marco Rossi going back to the Wild, in my opinion, are very low.
Slim to none.
I think a team is going to be very, very happy with the player they get, especially if his value if the Minnesota Wild continue to lowball him and value him as low as they are. A team's going to get this guy. I'm not going to say for pennies on the dollar. He was still a 9th overall pick. He still is a valuable player, but it's going to be way less value than, in my opinion, I think he's worthy of. A team like the New York Islanders right now that are really trying to almost rebuild on the fly. They're trying to get younger. They're trying to get speedier.
I would love that.
I think that is like a perfect fit for a guy like Marco Rossi. Look, I'll say with the Minnesota Wild, I like the add of Vladimir Tarasenko, but that's the only kind of exciting thing they did this
year. I will cut you off though. I do see what you're saying. The Wilds have been mediocre since the start of their existence, right?
Yeah.
But I have seen their prospect pool and you think about that. They brought in Juracek from Columbus.
Yep.
They have Boone. They
Yep.
have
their defensive core is young and exciting. Zeev Buim, they have Carson Dembo, who's a high pick, like
Wallstead.
Faber.
Which again, Wallstead, I don't think he's going to be their starter this year. Like they have some guys that the future of the Minnesota Wild is exciting. They have some guys that I am looking forward to seeing. But I look at this decor for next season. Yeah, they're going to insert Zeev Buim into the lineup. That's exciting. Carson Lambos is going to get a shout.
Mm-hmm.
Brock Faber has obviously shown he's a proven NHL guy. But these are still very young guys to be running a defensive core.
No, they definitely have.
I don't think they're a shoe-in to make the playoffs. I'll say that.
But they have Spurgeon and Brodin and Middleton. So I think
when it comes to Brodin, he did miss some time with injury.
Okay,
we'll see what ends up happening when it comes to next year. Like, yes, they do have some older guys and they have some younger guys. The question is going to be, how are they inserting these younger guys into the lineup? Yeah. I still think there's going to be a feeling out process for what is this Minnesota Wild defensive core and how are they going to be rounded out. At this rate, I would put the Utah Mammoth above the Minnesota Wild personally.
Jared, let's hit the tone. Let's match the tone of the podcast, the Heat. Name right now off the top of your head the 2 Western Conference wildcard teams. I'm curious.
Okay, something I'm going to bring up. I was kind of saving for later, but I have the Colorado Avalanche being a wildcard team.
Interesting.
They're going to be in the Pacific Division. I'm going to add that. Just a little teaser. Oh. And I think the Utah Mammoth is going to be the second wildcard team that's in the Central Division, probably playing the Dallas Stars most likely.
Something like that.
And I think it's going to be Dallas Stars as your Western Conference winner. The Utah Mammoth scrape in. It's probably going to be in the Pacific Division. The Colorado Avalanche facing off against, at this point, I'd probably say the Vegas Golden Knights. And I think those are my 2 wildcard teams.
I know the Brock Nelson deal was really bad.
It is really bad. I actually don't like the Colorado Avalanche roster at all.
Can you grab me?
I'm gonna pull it up right now. I have a lot of problems with that roster. They can't be a first-round exit team forever. Since winning the Stanley Cup, they've been a first or second-round exit team every single year. I can't help but feel like
I can't agree with this one.
I can't help but feel like they're kind of due. I'm not sold on the roster on paper. Put it this way, heading into 2025, which is a take that I ultimately ended up being proven very wrong on. I had the New York Rangers as my Stanley Cup winner, and I had the Colorado Avalanche being the team that ultimately was playing them. Now, I ended up flipping the script on that, and I ended up being bang on the money saying the Dallas Stars were going to take them out in the first round because of some very obvious roster flaws with the Colorado Avalanche. But the reason I was kind of saying I believe Colorado has a chance is not because I like anything about the roster, but about Nathan, like the stars on this team, Nathan MacKinnon, Cale Makar, Devon Toews. I believed, even you look at their body language, every time they're getting these early eliminations, they lost to the Seattle Kraken in 2023. And every time they get plays, Nathan MacKinnon just has this look on his face like the next year he's going to come around and drag this team kicking and screaming to another Stanley Cup. We'll get there. I'm just saying, put it there. I'm just going to, a little spoiler.
Let's leave it. Let's put a blocker in it. Yeah.
Colorado Avalanche, just saying watch
I
it.
think one question I have in my mind, which I won't let you answer because we should get to it after, is Dallas is your one, you said. Winnipeg, I'm assuming, is 2 or 3. Who's the other team that's in that top 3? That's the question that's following in my head. We'll get to that later. Anyways, I'll finish my point against Utah. Max talked about the McBain contract. I thought it was a little much.
I did as well.
It's absolutely.
I did as well.
He's
one of the.
They're taking a chance on him. They're just taking a chance on him.
He's one of those players that, again, he will lay the body.
A 5-year chance is a long chance.
Yeah,
I don't know. I think he hasn't maybe proven himself that much, but I like the player. Looking back on it, they traded, I think, a second-round pick for him from Minnesota back in 2023, 2024.
Okay, so he wasn't.
And I like the guy. I think he's good, and I think he has potential to improve. He didn't have a great season.
His minutes are going to be limited, though.
He didn't have a great season. I won't lie. He didn't have a great season, but I think with time he will grow. He's only 25. Maybe that's a little bit old if you're considering young guys, but he's only 25. He was able to squeak a little bit extra money there out of arbitration, but the cap is going up, and the contracts are going up, and you're seeing players like even last year, you're seeing Yakov Trenin getting 4 years, 3.5 mil. Like these guys are squeaking out bigger contracts with all the leverage. I'll say one more guy that I think is an absurd contract, which is Cody Ceci at 4 years, 4.5 mil.
Yeah, spoiler alert for later.
Let's put a little blocker on there.
That's all I'm gonna say.
We're looking at you guys.
All I'm gonna say is the cap's going up, and that gives room for players to negotiate these bigger contracts, and that's why I think McBain will prove himself even with this maybe not as good contract.
Fellas, one thing I think we underestimate is I think a lot of the time there's some really not great agents and some really great agents. And so
Cody Ceci's got the best agent in the world.
Oh yeah, I was in the NHL.
I want him representing you.
I would want Cody Ceci's agent. How does he keep doing it? How does he keep doing
it? We don't know. The guys
can't keep getting away with it.
He's
so bad.
Look, this is where I'll get into. You lost Gavrikov for nothing, and this is your guy that you brought in to replace him. You actually brought 2 guys that were worth more than what Gavrikov got with New York, which is a 7-year, $7 million contract.
You know, he got
great contract, by the way. Great contract.
Looking back at Cody Ceci.
I'm gonna
sorry, Ryan.
I'm gonna give my
get into your team. By the way, Utah Mammoth, really, really good pick. I'll let me finish off my point by saying we'll get into the Leafs, I'm sure, a little bit later. Of course, knowing they're our team. So I'll say just about the Maccelli deal. I don't think he didn't really have a spot in their lineup. When we talk about we've mentioned the guys you've already said with McBain and Hayden, all that stuff. He didn't really have a spot there. And they got a potential second for him. He had been regressing. I think that was a solid trade for them to really cap off. I'm comfortable calling that a win-win trade. I'm totally comfortable calling that a win-win because I'll get into it in a little bit. I do like it for the Leafs as well. However, if we're talking about the Mammoths' perspective, I think it totally made sense. He was a player that when they were the Arizona Coyotes, he really seemed to fit in with what Arizona was at the time. Mm-hmm. Since the move over to Utah, I know it's a lot of the same executives and a lot of the same staff, but for whatever reason, he just hasn't as well in that move, which a relocation thing, there are players that thrive under that, and experiencing a
sure.
new market, and there are players that struggle under that. He majorly struggled, it appeared. He struggled to, win over the confidence of his coach, struggled to really fit in this new city. And it showed. I think it was the time to move on from this guy. They were able to get some solid value from it. And yeah, I really did like it from the Leafs perspective, but I also really, really liked it from the Mammoths perspective as well.
Yeah, call it a culture shock too. Like sometimes the culture is not right for him.
I'm
And
excited. I'm
ultimately,
really
we
excited
talk
from
about
our
it.
perspective to take a chance at a guy that has shown, obviously, in the past,
Yeah.
his rookie year, his second year, he has incredible potential.
But I will say we'll get there.
Yes.
Ryan, I'm dying to hear your pick for
I
winner
am-
of the offseason.
Look, the New York Rangers had everything went wrong. It seems like everything is not great right now. However, that is my winner of the offseason. They have finally
You have to sell me on this.
they got
I
themselves
have him as an
a
honorable
defenseman.
mention, so I see where you're coming from.
They've got themselves a defenseman that's going to sit next to Adam Fox. They have the goaltender that is a top goaltender in the league. One of. Look, I honestly think this team is a playoff team. I am very confident in that.
Totally agree with that. I still don't think
I'm
you
gonna
could pick them as a winner of the offseason. They did okay. They did
Jared
solid.
knows I'm huge on Will Cooley. He's a guy that
Guys,
put up
I like
50
Will.
goals, 50
I
points,
like him.
just about, and put up about 300 hits. This guy will hit
Right.
anything that moves, has a shot.
Yeah.
I thought the deal they got him at was incredible. It was a guy that
Yeah.
I wanted to see us trade for
Yeah.
the rights because it seemed like they didn't like, I didn't hear any word with it. They didn't really care about it. They got him at a great contract. Now you have Adam Fox, the perfect partner. Will Borgen, I think he's a solid player they got last year. I'm not going to say it was an offseason ad. However,
Yeah.
you still got guys like Panarin. You still got these guys. I do not think they will be another middle of the pack.
Disappointing.
Well, I'm totally with you, but I still think. Okay, you guys are saying you all love the Vladislav Gavrikov deal.
I wouldn't say I love it.
I think it's expensive. And that's the main thing. You could say they've done a nice job shaping up their defensive core for next year. I do believe it will be a good defensive core next year.
Better than Jacob Trouba.
I agree with that, but that doesn't automatically mean it was a great offseason addition. I think it's very clear who they ultimately replaced. I also think when they had a guy as valuable as Keandre Miller, I'm not saying they did bad in that deal. In fact, they got some good value back for a guy that it's clear they were willing to move on from. But my question is for all these teams, why is it that they're so eager to move on from like really talented offensive young defensemen that you'd think would want to grow and develop with their organization? I'm looking at the Islanders with Noah Dobson, obviously looking at the Rangers with Keandre Miller. I get that they ended up replacing with Vladislav Gavrikov, and that is good, but they still signed him to a 7-year, $7 million deal, which is quite pricey, if I do say so myself. And that's really the only other major move they did. And another thing that's floating around is it appears they might end up flipping Mika Zibanejad. I still think there are way too many questions.
I don't know what's gonna happen.
I want to, as I continue, I want to discuss.
Too many question marks for me to say they're the winner of the offseason.
So
May I chip in beforehand before you get to your point, right? I totally agree, and I do think the Gavrikov signing, I think to kind of mix in both of your points, it was an expensive deal, $49 million to a defenseman that's probably outside of the top 30 defensemen in the league is a
he's good at what he does.
Questionable move.
It was the market.
Yes, and that to Max's point, it was the market. But guys, the Rangers, I was doing my research. They were in the bottom half of goals allowed. Like when you have a goalie like Shesterkin, you've got to be in the top 10, top 5, and that I think that stat shows what was lackluster is they didn't have defenseman guys, and so they really filled in a need there. Maybe Keandre Miller is a stud, no doubt, and he'll be a beauty for Carolina, I'm sure. But they already had Fox. They have Schneider. They needed the piece like Gavrikov to iron out that defense, and I think he was a perfect piece. It's a lot of money, but I think it's enough. That Miller got more too, so I think this was a really strong move by the Rangers, and we'll talk about Cooley, and I'm sure you'll talk a bit more, Rye, but I really like the Gavrikov move.
I'm also going to say with the Keandre Miller situation, Carolina, of course, I knew that they were going to move on from him. I didn't know where he was going to go. It didn't seem like New York really valued him. Carolina gave up the farm to get him.
He's so good though.
He's
Like,
so good, and he's gonna fit like a glove.
It's a well-deserved trade. Yes, Morrow, he's a good prospect, but he was never gonna fit in that Hurricanes.
New York, I think
decor. You take that any day of the week. Yes.
Yeah.
I get what you're saying. You take that any day of the week. But honestly, I love Keandre Miller. I was gonna get into this already, but at 8 years at 7.5 mil, such a good contract. They already have Slavin.
Way better in my opinion than a Gavrikov deal, a guy that's a lot.
Well, yeah, Gavrikov's deal
100%.
36.
100%. This is what I was debating, saying the Hurricanes instead of the Panthers. Obviously, the Panthers is the obvious answer. I was thinking maybe saying the Hurricanes because I love the Keandre Miller trade. I think it's perfect for them, and they're looking like a scary team next year. I'm not going to say anything else to spoil anything more, but they are looking like a scary team next year, and they still have what, like 10 million cap space, something like that.
I'm not sold that they will have
scary.
anyone that can fight against a guy like Matthew Tkachuk. Okay.
Well, they're not building up.
They are so small.
The offseason's not over yet. The offseason's not over yet. They still have so much time.
Like Ehlers, he's got the skill. He's gonna help him put some pucks.
What a sign.
However,
put it this way. If they want to talk to San Jose about Ryan Reaves, I mean, there are guys out there.
That's not the player.
If they want to get bigger, there are guys out there.
That's not the player that I think. You need a player that's also skillful, but it's like, what's going to happen when you have a line of Ehlers, Aho, and Jarvis, whose average height is probably 5'9" or 10?
I will say Jarvis plays above what his actual listed height is. He is kind of one of those rabid dog type players. He will get in a player's face. Also, there are some Carolina, I agree with you. They don't have the size. They're still a well-built team in terms of the defensive end of the ice. They'll still get in people's faces. I don't think, to me, their issue is a lack of size. I think it's more that they couldn't put the puck in the net, and that is something they addressed.
Yeah,
they're top 5 team in the NHL, but guys, they're not the Florida Panthers.
I was gonna say,
Florida Panthers.
We've seen time and time again that the playoffs is about wearing teams down, and that's what Florida does.
And they're not, and I do have problems with their team in that regard. I'm just saying, like,
that's my worry.
I would like them to get bigger as well. I'm just saying,
Kotkaniemi also has to go.
Absolutely,
that's their number. That's what they need to address. That's number one adjustment is getting rid of Kotkaniemi for an actual second line center.
Yes.
Because if they get that and they get some big guy who will support that team, I'm not really sure how big Mark Rotie is. Please,
short, very short.
He's a small guy. That isn't helping that issue. He does give the more.
Okay, he's small.
But you mentioned Schmaltz, which is good.
That is the type of guy.
There's a reason why we're saying that the Schmaltz deal is bad. However, there's a reason why Utah wanted to keep a guy like that, because you're noticing players that have the two-way game that they can hit and they can also score come at a premium.
Yeah.
That's kind of how it goes.
I want to say one more thing.
There's knives for you.
I want to say one more thing about the New York Rangers before we round this up, and then we'll get into my pick. The New York Rangers traded a young, exciting player, and I get it appeared that the timelines were off and they were willing to move on from this guy.
Mm-hmm.
But they traded them to their divisional rival.
Yeah.
Their divisional rival.
Look,
what are your thoughts? I think that is bound to age back.
That's the question mark.
You have the fact that I guarantee you, obviously there's other teams of it interested. No one was beating that offer. I don't think.
I think, for example, when we talked about our RFA predictions before July 1st, I put the Anaheim Ducks as my team that I thought was going to go all in for Keandre Miller. Because it seems like they love adding old New York Rangers. But also, they had money to spend. They have assets to spend. I don't think a team that seems to be a lock to make the Final Four every single year has the most assets when we're talking about other teams in the league that actually are just rebuilding and have things to spend and sell the farm to get a guy like this. This is a guy that brings a team from rebuilding into at least the conversation. He's really, really good.
He is.
We mentioned Anaheim. They struck out, and we'll get into losers in a sec. The Ducks, we're getting to losers in a sec, but the Ducks are a team that had some a real issue on defense. I thought they had a hole to fill, and as you said, Jared, It would have been nice. A guy like Keandre Miller would have been nice to fill that gap, help them kind of advance offensively. They had Lacombe, they have Zellweger, but I feel like to really
Mitch
advance
Krug.
them into the playoff conversation, a signing like Miller could have been made, and they really struck out and ended up making some not so great moves, in my opinion.
Yeah, well, when we talk about with the New York Rangers, you kind of said, okay, well, this is the best offer that we're going to get. I don't even know if I necessarily believe that, because as much as, yes, it was a lot for Carolina to give up, at the end of the day, they were trying to very much fix an issue they have.
Yeah.
Like, where they had a really good defensive defenseman. They have obviously a guy, Jacob Slavin, that I would argue is the best defensive defenseman in the league, or at least in the
Look,
top
they were
10.
trying to replace losing Brady Shea.
Absolutely. Well, but I think Keandre Miller, in terms of the puck moving end of the ice, is a better even puck moving. Like Brady Shea's a great defenseman. He's obviously older
Yeah.
and more established. But Keandre Miller, not only is he a good defensive, he's a big body, he's a zippy puck moving guy, which is an area they don't really have. It's very clear what the Carolina Hurricanes are trying to do this offseason. And
Yeah.
I'm going to give it away. They're not the winner of this offseason. I'd say the Florida Panthers probably are, but when we've already narrowed down that I can't pick the New York Rangers, the Utah Mammoth, or the Florida Panthers, I feel comfortable putting the Carolina Hurricanes within the top 5 of my winners of the offseason, just in terms of it's very clear what they're trying to address here. They are in by far the weakest division in the NHL. It's actually crazy how bad the Metropolitan Division is, that it almost feels like every single year they're almost guaranteed a spot in the Final Four. But they haven't really been able to do any damage against, the Atlantic Division winner, because they have very clear holes. They're a really good defensive team. They're a really good shutdown team, but they lack high-flying skating and being able to outskate opponents. Well, the addition of Keandre Miller really helps to address that. They also had an issue with scoring. I would say that as much as they lack size, and Florida is the epitome of having size, and that is obviously the main reason why Florida's been able to bully the Carolina Hurricanes so much. I also think there's something to be said about Carolina's goal scoring has not been able to come up to play when you're talking or when you're comparing it to teams like the Florida Panthers. And as much as I don't necessarily love the cost of what they spent for Keandre Miller, I don't even like the cost of what they spent for Nikolai Ehlers. They're a team that's a contending team. They've made the Final Four about 3 times since 2019, but they're a rare team in a situation like that that has the luxury of having cap space on their side, having some assets on their side. Why not throw those around? How much better are you going to get without winning a Stanley Cup? Like, they've made the Final Four. They obviously haven't made the finals. They've been eliminated in the Final Four. In fact, getting swept 2 of the 3 times and losing in 5 the other time. I agree, they have definitely some room to go. But they've gone on what other fan bases would call deep playoff runs, and they haven't gone all the way. In my opinion, fuck them picks. Fuck the prospects. Fuck those assets.
Yes.
They need to win a Stanley Cup at this point.
Agreed.
They've been a team that for years I've
100%.
talked about as being in a competitive window, they're not a perfect team, but they're really good at the areas they're really good at. They have some strengths that they're really, really good at. They're probably one of the best defensive teams in the league. It's about time they actually throw caution to the wind a little bit and build up in areas that they needed to build up in. They've lacked scoring. They've lacked puck moving ability. That's what they've done. So I'm going to go into what the Keandre Miller deal actually was. They traded a conditional first-round pick and a second, as well as a really good prospect in Scott Morrow, in exchange for Keandre Miller, who they later signed to a 7.5 by 8 year deal. It's a good deal, in my opinion. A conditional first-round pick, but the condition on that is that it's top 10 protected, right? So they're not in a situation where they're risking giving up a potential first overall pick or even a top 5 pick.
It's also them in Dallas, so it's 2 good teams.
It's 2 good teams that are going to be competitive year after year. When you're looking at the Metropolitan Division, no, nothing's a guarantee in the NHL, and the New York Rangers are the main example of that. But I would say they're pretty comfortable that it's not going to be like they're giving up a really high pick. It's not going to be the 11th overall pick. Most likely, watch it end up being the 11th overall pick. But it's going to be probably a 25 to 32nd overall pick. Is that something you enjoy giving up? No, but you're also getting one of the best young defensemen in the NHL who's only getting better from here. Then you're trading a second round pick. It almost is like if the Carolina Hurricanes end up achieving what they hope to achieve with this Keandre Miller deal, it's going to feel like it's 2 second-round picks that they're giving up here, which we remember the narrative about the Devon Toews deal when they gave up 2 second-round picks for Devon Toews, and everyone was laughing at the New York Islanders for that. It's not quite what the Carolina Hurricanes did here, but it's a little similar because it very well, the idea here if everything works out is it's going to feel like 2 second-round picks and a prospect is the only difference. It's a lot. It could end up aging really badly. And the Carolina Hurricanes, as we've all talked about with Jesperi Kotkaniemi, they still have work to do. So I'm not going to say they'd be my number one winner of the offseason, but I am comfortable throwing them in the top 5 because I really think they checked off a lot of boxes and addressed a lot of issues with what they did here with the Ehlers deal and with the Miller deal.
So we barely even talked about the Ehlers deal. Like that was a great signing too, bringing in some.
It's expensive.
It was expensive,
but
it was clear.
They had money. They had some fuck you money to throw around. If you're a contending team, why not throw some money around and bully some teams that weren't able to give up?
It was clear they had to pay a top dollar to get him. They paid about $1.25 million more than the Brock Besser deal. However, why not? You need to excite a guy to come to a city like Carolina, which we've seen stars have not been excited to go. I'm talking about the Gensel situation.
Mikko Rantanen.
The Rantanen situation. Yeah. You got to motivate the guy, especially if he's going to be signing long term. And they did that by throwing in more money than he probably would have got elsewhere.
I will add, he's coming from Winnipeg, right? So it's not that hard to improve from Winnipeg. Consistently rated the place that players like playing in the least in the NHL. At least he has a sunny beach that he could sit on every once in a while in Carolina. He gets to play next to Sebastian Aho. Now, I would say the Carolina Hurricanes aren't as good as the Winnipeg Jets. They're also in a significantly worse division, and they probably have more of a chance of going on a deep run. You're not going to be as good on paper, but you have a chance at going on a run. That's a player that hasn't won a Stanley Cup in his career. In fact, hasn't gone to a Stanley Cup Finals in his career. I think Ehlers is going to find a home in Carolina. I think the team definitely still has work to do, but I think they're on the right track, and I'm giving them my pick for this, not because I actually think every deal was perfect. There's definitely some caveats I have to add to these deals, because they did spend a little bit too much in some regards. I give kudos to a contending team that was willing to kind of throw caution to the wind a little bit. They recognized their areas of need, and they addressed those areas of need.
Isn't it crazy after we're talking about them overpaying when they still have $10.64 million?
I was about to bring that up.
Ready to go.
That's what you call fuck you money there. They're able to spend a lot of money. No one's going to say it's cheap what they did, but they still have assets and they still have money to spend. I like what Carolina did here. I'm giving them I'm
excited also for what they do with that center, right? They have their 2026 first still intact. They have their first. They have 2
it's crazy
2028 first round picks still intact.
Tulsi choked with that Mikko deal. They're ready. They have 10.6 million cap space. They have 4 first round picks in the next 3 years. They already traded one to get Kendrick Miller. They are scary. If they make a move for that second line big center that we were talking about before, I don't know if I should bring it up again, but that big second line center, maybe even more than that with how much money they have, they are a scary team. Tulsi's not done. I think this offseason, if they get that piece, they win the offseason. They beat the Panthers because this team is scary.
I'm just saying.
But I agree with you saying, right now.
You've established already, and I think this is really stupid. If I was a GM, I would never do this. But the New York Rangers seem to have no problem trading in division to a divisional rival who they very well may end up facing off against. I'm not saying this is my prediction. I'm just saying, what if we see a red Mika Zibanejad jersey printed out, is all I'm saying. As a guy that the Rangers have talked about floating out there, it fits the area of need, and New York Rangers, a team that were in the Final Four in 2024, absolutely catapulted. No one knows where they're going to end up finishing. It would be nice if the Carolina Hurricanes maybe threw a couple picks their way with the assets they have, and they maybe work something out in that regard.
You want to hear my
that'd be the chef's kiss.
It ended up being a rumor for a few days. However, the player does have trade protection, so it does have to go through him.
Which kind of means nothing in the NHL.
I will say, Tomas Hertl from the
that's interesting.
A team that, of course, after signing Marner, are in a logjam for money as well. They have Jack Eichel next summer.
I think they're fine. They're fine because Pietrangelo and LTIR.
They're going and they're going to LTIR someone else.
Mark Stone. Factor in
Mark Stone. You could also pencil into LTIR.
Pietrangelo on LTIR. They are still $7 million over the cap.
Right now,
No,
Now-
that's not. I don't think that's true. Is that true?
I don't
they do
think
have an
that's
issue.
true.
They are still well below, but like
Pietrangelo has been put on LTIR.
With
Oh,
Petro on
okay.
LTI. No, this is just him on IR. It's just him on IR.
Are you
I
sure?
thought
I'm looking at puck. He's
I
only
thought
on
they're
IR right
within.
now. Once he's on LTIR, boom, they have
Yeah.
like a mil cap. Like they'll have like 1.2 million.
yeah, okay, so he's on IR and he does make 8 million.
My mistake.
So in
Yeah,
that
you're
case,
good.
that would
I-
put
You're
them
okay.
under. That would put
let
them under.
me wrap up our Carolina point here by saying I think for years they've been at the same kind of position, one of the Cup favorites, but just not there. They have the flexibility now with the everything we talked about, their draft capital,
Yep.
their cap space. I think if they do make a big time move sometime, not even the offseason, but sometime mid-season too, they really can put themselves on a pedestal to be the favorite over Florida. In my book, Florida's the favorite right now. But they have the value, they have the what's the word? They have the
The
source,
assets.
the assets. That's what I'm looking for. They have the assets to make the trade. We need that. You got to make something happen. I like this new GM. He's no bullshit. He knows what he has to do to win. They've been stuck in the same position for years. If they want to win a Stanley Cup with this core in the next 5 years, if you want to get past the Panthers, which are the pinnacle, you have to make trades for guys like Zibanejad or
Not only are
Hurdle.
they the pinnacle in
That's
terms
what
of
you gotta
this,
do.
they've won back-to-back Stanley Cups. Specifically, the Carolina Hurricanes, of all teams in the league, have more reason than others to be pissed about the Florida Panthers, rather, because
For sure.
in 2 of the last 3 times Florida has made
Yep.
the Stanley Cup Finals, they have walked their way through the Carolina Hurricanes.
Of course.
Yep.
Not just in general, specifically in the conference finals, they have
Yep.
taken them out. And it's not like it's been competitive or close. The Leafs could at least say there was a Game 7 matchup. Florida has dummied them. It's been a sweep in one series. It was a gentleman's sweep in the other. It was in 5, and they were up 3-0 in that series. It's straight up been a dog walking, and the Carolina Hurricanes know exactly who they're eyeing down as the team to beat right now. And you have to be not just creative in order to beat them, you have to be a little throwing caution to the wind. That's what the Vegas Golden Knights have been known for doing. That's what the Florida Panthers have been known for doing, is kind of throwing caution to the wind. Can it age badly? Yes, but also you have to make some risk to get that high reward. I really like what Carolina has done here. How do you say for the losers of the offseason? Maybe we do a little snake draft system. So we'll go me, Rye, Dylan, and then we'll end it off with Max.
Okay.
What exactly, Ryan? You take it away with what you were looking up, because then I'm going to get into my pick for my losers. So Rye, guys.
So another point of Carolina, which is definitely exciting, is that Keandre Miller is also he does have a physical presence to his game. He's shown very
Mhm.
a lot of boxes. I really like the play
He
right now
had-
and what New York is thinking.
He's what they needed.
He's a consistent blocker. He's a consistent hitter. I do think that is a good piece to take into a series if they end up meeting up against a team like Florida. He's a guy that's going to have the boys back, especially your smaller guys like Ehlers that don't tend to check off the hitting box. I do think it is an exciting ad, even though we discussed that it might have costed a lot in assets. The contract's good.
I love that. I
How
love it.
often do late first round picks end up blooming into anything? Not that often, actually. It's
Correct.
like as long as they're
I think a point I brought up on a past show. We were talking about the Tanner Jeannot deal to Tampa.
Yep.
And
a little blast from the past.
Yeah, that trade in hindsight, terrible, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in a draft.
It was always
for
bad. It was
Tanner
always a
Jeannot.
bad deal.
It was.
I said at the time, terrible deal at the time, terrible time now. But when you want to fucking win, you do whatever it takes, and
That's true.
you could fuck them picks. Sometimes it doesn't pan out, but at least you can say you fucking tried, you gave it your everything. Tampa traded a lot for a guy that they thought would give them a really good chance to win
he was
in
young,
that trade,
scoring,
and
he
Carolina did that right here as well. And
That's
Put it
different
this way, I
circumstances,
like the
but yes.
gamble with Keandre Miller a lot better than the gamble
I
with
don't think
Tampa.
it's not more a gamble more than this guy's young and he's already proved himself somewhat. and you're putting him in this number one, number two role besides the best defenseman in the league, he's only going to thrive. He's only going to do better than he ever did with New York. And he's the number one offensive defenseman on this team. That's his role. He will thrive, and he will be great with this team. It's exactly what they needed.
All right, so
I see a little smirk from Dylan over there, but he's exactly what they needed.
I'm going to start us off here with my I'm not going to say they were all
I will say I had myself ready, but Ryan took over. So
it's getting hot. It's getting hot.
He grabbed the iPad and just pulled it away to his side and just started prepping his information.
Whoa,
what's our thoughts
guy's ready.
on
No.
after a 7-goal, 6-assist season in 67 games, what's our thoughts on the Tanner Jeannot contract?
In Boston.
$3.4 million
it's
by
bad.
5 years.
There's a no trade clause in the first two. There's a modified in the 3-4. That's what the enforcers are getting.
I will
in this day and
say
age.
there
That's
are
what McBain
very
got,
few
like-
other players in the league that fit the Boston Bruins more than a guy like Tanner Jeannot. They love their assholes. They love players that just beat the shit out of opponents. This is what Tanner Jeannot is going to bring. He also showed flashes when he was in Nashville of when he's actually given minutes and time on ice that he didn't receive in Tampa. He is able to put up somewhat of a punch offensively.
He was a 40-point player.
And he's going to get that opportunity in Boston. I think there is a greater than zero chance that it ages well, because at the end of the day, as much as it's expensive for what he's shown he is in the last few years, in the grand scheme of things with the cap going up, 3.4 isn't horrible. Right now, with the sample size we've had in the last few years, it really
Look,
isn't
you're
great.
paying 3.4.
It's really not
It really
is a 13-point player, right? So, I
They
was
like him.
searching up for his ice time, how it dropped from obviously being in Nashville that one season.
Yeah.
Right? So he was receiving 12 minutes, 15 minutes, moved to Tampa, dropped down to 11 minutes.
Because he was third line in Tampa?
Rookie season, Tanner Jeannot received still more minutes on
He
ice.
was scary.
Fourth-year Tampa Bay Lightning, Tanner Jeannot.
So that is a big factor. However, there's obviously other reasons that he saw such a decline. But I will say,
I think opportunity and the way a coach utilizes a player is a big factor for are they going to succeed or are they not. I think if I were to be a betting man, which I'm not really a betting man, I think the chances of Tanner Jeannot improving in Boston are what I would personally be betting on.
Yeah.
Right now, I don't love the deal.
Mm-hmm.
Don't love it at all.
I really
am
still intrigued. The reason why I wasn't adding this as my loser in Boston is I still don't know what they've got up their sleeves. They just had a super high pick in the draft. They lost, obviously, their captain and Brad Marchand.
I think even that reason of them landing James Higgins eliminates them from being in the conversation of being the loser of the offseason.
I want to know
because they got their number one center. They got exactly the guy they had their eyes on, who no one believed was going to be available at 7th overall. It was a really, really good pick for them. I think it's going to fit.
It's so frustrating when they got him.
Yeah,
because you knew, like when they went up to the podium, you knew exactly what was going to happen.
I'm intrigued. They have 2 first-round picks in 2026. 2 in 2027, 1 in 2028. They have the assets. The Lindholm contract, obviously, still has a no-move clause. It's not pretty.
It's
however,
a horrible
I will
contract.
say they have some assets that they can play around with. They obviously now have this Higgins, but I do not think he would ever be a great beast in the world. But they have limited money, so it has to be within a trade. But I'm intrigued to see what they end up doing. They want to contend next year, I believe.
Okay, they're like when you're a team like Boston, when you're in a sports city like Boston, missing the playoffs on a consistent basis it's inexcusable.
They apologize to their season ticket holders, saying this is unacceptable. We will be back here next year. That's the kind of like measures they're going.
And look, when you make a promise like that, you kind of have to make good on it, and it's clear they're trying. I mean, before I get into my loser of the offseason, because it's not the Boston Bruins, I will say I just found it interesting that sometimes when there's a really highly projected prospect at the draft and they start slipping, when we reach 6th overall, 7th overall, and they're still not taken, there's some level of conversation about, oh shit, who's going to end up taking them? Are they going to keep passing? Is it going to keep falling down? When the Boston Bruins went up, there was none of that discussion because we knew exactly where their eyes were. What do they need? It's a number one center. They got their number one center. I don't love what they did with Tanner Jeannot. I think it could age well. I think there's a bunch of question marks here. They also got Victor Arvidsson in this
They
offseason.
took on that horrible contract though.
They got a horrible contract.
However, it only has the year, so let's
it only
see.
has the year. Now,
What was
I,
it? What
Yeah,
was, fellas, what
I
was
he
our
did
believe
place to
a
thrive.
team would take on a guy like Victor. Let's say the Bruins end up collapsing again, because as much as they need to get better, they also need to bank on teams in the Atlantic Division falling down, which is not going to be an easy.
That's just not gonna happen now.
Probably not going to happen. My chance, like the Boston Bruins, I think are probably not going to end up making the playoffs next year. I think a certain team, I don't even know what team it would be. I'm just saying, I think there are teams, maybe the Vegas Golden Knights comes to mind, just because it's inevitable they will end up getting cap space, even cap space they don't have right now. There are teams I think would take on a guy like Victor Arvidsson. So they've made a lot of weird gambles, but they're trying to do stuff because they made a promise to their season ticket holders in their organization. That's a team that does not accept losing. And I will say I respect it. I also can't say they've done great with that.
So I have one big thing to say. Taking on Arvidsson right now, it's obviously not a great deal, right? We say that the dollar's bad. However, what's stopping Boston from realizing, oh shit, we might not be contending this year, from seeing how the deadline is?
Well, that's
and
what I'm talking
adding him as
there are teams that would
right?
there are for sure teams that would
be
happy to get that guy as their big
2023, 2024.
He's a full no move, but
15 points. 2022, 2023.
What I'll say with those is
it's a bit fraudulent.
It's always the conversation. Oh, well, it's going to be hard to move that player. If he's missing, listen, he's been on the Edmonton Oilers making back-to-back Stanley Cup finals. In 1 year, they were a game shy. In another year, 2025, they were 2 games shy. If he's really missing the playoffs, which is what I think we're all here predicting, you're telling me he's not going to waive his no move if he has a chance. Let's say it's the Carolina Hurricanes. They're really, really good. Again, they have kind of what would be considered to be an easy walking path to the conference finals again, but they're looking for a piece to put them over the edge. You're telling me a guy like Victor Arvidsson wouldn't be happy to go up and get another kick at the can against the Florida Panthers before he has to go to the Stanley Cup finals with them? I think there's absolutely
100%.
You can also end up seeing Edmonton in the finals. It would be like a big fuck you if he ends up winning. You know, it's like
I'd say Max. Let me go. I think a massive point was, remember after the loss to Florida and that crazy season that they had, they lost so many guys, and we thought they might not make the playoffs. We underestimated them, and we are underestimating them now. Sure, after a terrible year. They're scrappy. They still have Pasternak. They still have McAvoy. They still have Swayman, who could really only go up from last year.
Absolutely.
They are gonna be hungry. I think they're gonna be better than last year, and they might be in the playoff picture. They're the Bruins. They're always.
I think two things can be true at the same time. They're going to be better than they were last year. As I said, not only do they need to get better, they need to rely on teams to get worse. And I don't think if they were in the Metro, absolutely. I don't think in the Atlantic Division you could bank on this many teams falling down.
Yeah.
Inevitably, at one of these years, Buffalo has to get better. You think that the Red Wings are trying to get better. There is quite a log jam for them to rise their way out. Oh, and then we forgot about the Montreal Canadiens, who are probably going to be just as good next year, if not better. Adding Noah Dobson.
As I said, it's going to take Boston adding a star for me to I believe they're gonna be a playoff team. They're obviously missing a big spot, losing.
They are. Pasternak cannot carry this team the way that McKinnon can carry it.
I was just gonna say, if they really do make the playoffs, get your David Pasternak Hart Trophy bet out of the way right now. Like, if you believe that the Boston Bruins are making the playoffs, throw the family's future, throw the college fund, everything on David Pasternak to win this year's Hart Trophy. But I think that's enough to say about the Boston Bruins. It's enough to say about our winners of the offseason. I have a question for the room here. I know you're a business guy, Dylan. You're a math guy. Max, I have a question for you. Are you by chance a science guy?
Max loves science.
A little bit of a science guy.
Not that bad.
Well, the Los Angeles Kings, through the power of pure mitosis, seem to have taken and then grown Brian Dumoulin and then grown Cody Ceci. They have 3 of the exact same defensemen, and all of them are overpaid. I don't know what the fuck the LA Kings are doing. They are by far, to me, the loser of the offseason. I actually cannot tell you what they're doing. I like the Kuzmenko deal. I like Andre Kuzmenko. I wanted the Leafs to take a run at the Perry deal. I like the Perry deal as well. But for the sheer factor that they got Brian Dumoulin and Cody Ceci both for way too much money, they are the loser.
You're fucking my toes comment. That's all I gotta say. That was beautiful. One more. I don't know. Did you bring up Armia too? Joel Armia
Look,
at 2 years,
Joel Armia is
2.5
also an
mil.
interesting guy.
He's
I don't
getting
like what they
2 years,
did here.
2.5 mil for a guy who did like
No, I
basically nothing on the Habs.
no,
Like I
I
don't.
think
He's a really good penalty killer. He's a
I
really good.
think
Okay,
I
okay, fine.
think
Maybe not, but yes, they're doing mitosis. Maybe Edmondson wasn't as bad as these two, but they're doing mitosis. They picked up Cody Cece at a modified no trade clause.
4.5, and they gave him a no trade clause. And then Ryan Dumoulin making $4 million
It's so
the next
bad.
boys, let me
What
bring
years.
let me
Till
what is
let me
Ken
bring up
2029.
Holland
You're
doing?
about to say
What
something.
is Ken Holland doing?
let me bring up something separate too. Like they had a young guy. They had Jordan Spence. They had Jordan Spence. They traded him
Bye bye, third
for
round pick.
a bag of chips to Ottawa. He was actually quite good for them last year. And they could have they could have extended him next year for not probably less than the CC deal. And
If
they
I'm not
replaced him
mistaken, I
with
do want to
CC.
factor in he did request a trade. However, I believe they could have got more. I'm just factoring in it was a trade request.
Also, I wonder why he
Okay.
requested the trade. Like this organization, they're a
Ken
scary team.
Holland.
I thought they were going to beat the Edmonton Oilers last year, but in
We
terms
all
of
did, right?
you guys know
And
how
that's
much
nothing.
I think Ken Holland is one of the worst GMs in the NHL. How much I read
It's
with these guys, the Edmonton Oilers, and
blasphemy.
he's doing it again to the LA Kings. He consistently makes the most baffling choices, and when there's, I mean, I won't even say I look at this team and see a clear area of need, but put it this way: their area of need was not Cody Cece and Brian Dumoulin. Like he consistently puts money into the wrong areas.
It's so bad.
Valid areas to put them over the edge with more offensive threats.
At the end of the day,
It's so bad.
I firmly
So
believe that
bad.
Kopitar, like, again, older guy now. You got to find a way to get him as your second line center or even third line.
You know, Quentin Byfield, I think the inevitable thing is he's going to move up there. I think Byfield is so good. He's found money there.
Doughty, too. You know, they don't have that, young star guy at
a team you think would have gone all in for a guy like Keandre Miller.
100%.
And instead, they got rid of Vladislav Gavrikov, a defenseman I actually happen to really like, and they replaced him with two bottom pairing defensemen.
Yep.
Like
let's just talk about.
It doesn't make any sense.
Let's just talk about Ken Holland paying $9.25 million to Darnell Nurse. That is one of the worst contracts ever.
Great thing.
Kenny Holland.
How does that man have a job?
They did obviously.
Job is to overpay for offensive defensemen. I don't know what this guy is doing. He looks at these guys and thinks, "Oh, they're worth this much. Maybe they have one good season. Maybe CC proved himself a little bit. He's the only good right-handed defenseman in Dallas. Not good, but decent." And he pays these guys monster contracts to do stuff that they would never be in the realm of possibility to do. Like CC is not worth 4.5. You give him 3 mil, yes, that's a fair deal. Dumoulin, maybe he had a good stint with New Jersey after he was traded from Anaheim.
That's a
but you're not giving that guy modified no trade clause, 3 years, 4 mil for a guy who is known for being a depth defenseman on the Penguins back in 2016-17. You're not giving these guys these big contracts.
We talked
to do
about
stuff
Kyle
they
Dubas
can't
earlier.
do.
Before the show, me and Ryan were talking about Kyle Dubas, how that he used to give out, trade protections like it was water, like it was candy.
It's awful.
And Ken Holland is doing the exact same thing with two, like guys that, like, it's not even like, oh, maybe it could age badly. No. It's inevitable. I'm penciling it in right now. It's going to age badly. And they're going to be calling around, begging teams to take on these deals. But not only is no team going to want to take on these deals, why is this guy going to want to leave his house in sunny California by the beach? You're asking him to just have a penciled spot on the bottom pair of the LA Kings that's going to be an anchor for a team that otherwise I would be talking about, like, I want to see this team finally go all the way or go on a deep run.
Dude,
I thought they were going to beat the Edmonton Oilers, and now they solidified.
Ryan Dumoulin is living a peak life, like you said, living by the beach in California, making $4 million a year, has that no trade clause, doesn't have to worry about going to Winnipeg or whatever. And he's already won his cups, so he could care less if LA goes down the
So I did want to obviously mention one detail about trade clauses that I think we saw last year New York started to exploit. A trade protection, so the trade list, does not prevent the player from getting waived. So we saw what they did with Cuban negotiations. and the Goudreau's who should not Goudreau. Is it Goudreau? Barclay?
Yes,
Barclay.
Yeah, they
Barclay
waived
Goudreau.
it. They waived him.
Right? So they told him that it's either you accept the trade or we will waive you. And what they did with the Goudreau was they just waived him.
It's a
And
horrible situation.
this is why I'm very intrigued for the future of the New York Rangers. And because when players start to realize this is your way, you start to notice players take a not obviously liking to that management group. You had
100%.
Artemi Panarin host a group session at his house where they were all
This
just
is
ripping
crazy.
on the GM of the New York Rangers. It is insane.
This is a new thing that
Which
came out the other day.
Why I'm
It
discussing
is.
the LA Kings
Let's
situation
stop.
is just
It's remember the Ottawa Senators like Uber situation from a few years ago when that organization was in shambles?
Yeah.
That is the 2025-2026 New York Rangers, or at least what we're again, I think the team on paper there, it's only up from there. They're only going to get better. But in terms of what's happening with the organization and management and even the happiness of players, they're in New York City in Madison Square Garden. If you can't make players happy there, you can't make players happy everywhere. That organization is quite a shit show. In the name of time, I'm just going to quickly go around and ask you guys, aside from the LA Kings, do either of you have a different answer for your loser of the offseason? And if so, we'll quickly get into that before getting into the real fun part where we're previewing what we think is going to happen with the playoffs in 2026. Max, I'm going to ask you, Dylan, I'm going to ask you, do you guys have another pick that isn't the LA Kings?
Dylan,
Yeah.
you want to go first? I'll go quick.
Yeah.
You can go first.
Yeah, sure. We don't have to get it super in depth into it, but I thought one team that did not have a great offseason was the Oilers.
You've lost everyone. I'll hear you on that.
They're a sleeper pick. If you look at their depth, it is really, really bad.
I'll say it's always been. Like it's
it has.
It's always
It
been
has.
on paper. It's like the difference between the 2024 Oilers run and the 2025 Oilers run is in 2025, I could talk shit about that team in terms of how the roster's constructed to the point that I predicted them being a first round exit before the playoffs started. But credit where credit's due, their depth that isn't good on paper, it did rise to the occasion. However, without Jeff Skinner, without Victor Arvidsson, like it looks really, really bad.
They got obviously. I know everyone was super excited about getting Mangiapane. I was very happy that the Leafs didn't.
I love the Isaac Howard trade so much.
Very good.
That was a great one too.
Very good.
So,
Matthew Savoie is gonna hopefully make
This
some
is
impactful
why
minutes.
they took
I like their
They're a lot
offseason.
younger. They're going a lot younger and a lot cheaper.
They took advantage of Tampa. He didn't want to play there, and they're like, "We will give you
100%.
a prospect." For
Dylan, I don't hate the idea, but in my opinion, I think the Oilers somewhat won this offseason.
I'll tell you my three reasons why they did. Okay. I think they're undebatable, so we don't really have to get into it that much. One, they obviously had a big need. We all know what it is. Goaltender.
They
did not get that.
Sniff addressing it.
Right. Two, they were not able to get Bouchard long term. 4 years. That's not.
No,
It was
like
also
that. I like
super
that,
high AAV, super high.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because Hurricanes
They
pushed
folded
them.
to every demand he wanted. He wanted short term. He wanted a lot of freaking money. He got a
Also,
lot
the
of freaking money.
Hurricanes pushed them to add an extra mil to that because they approached Bouchard with that offer sheet potentially, and they made the Oilers have to go higher.
Yeah.
But anyway, so that those are my two major ones. And then the third, not as big. They signed Frederick to a lot of money for 8 years. I did not love that deal at all.
So
He's
bad.
a good depth
I
guy.
really agree with that one.
So bad.
I
But
think
it's like
I
one of
forgot
it's
about
like the
that.
Anglo
That's
contract.
really horrible.
I
Yeah.
truly believed, you're just taking guys new to your team, locking him in on 8 years. In my eyes, wasn't the right call. A 3-year would be nice, right? You're trying out a guy. To be honest, I loved him. I know he was he was always in discussions on trade last year. Obviously, ended up going to Edmonton.
Yep.
But his injury obviously didn't help that. But he was an exciting piece that someone was going to add in the deadline. Ended up going to Edmonton. But 8 years for a player that really didn't do much production-wise last season, and you're just locking him down. Jared, you want to grab it?
That's a perfect, 1.5, 1.85, $2 million player. If you really believe in this guy and you want to lock him in until he's 35 and 2033, then you give him a 1.5.
The real reason why I wanted Jared to grab this for me is because no move clause, no move clause, no move clause, no move clause.
Crazy.
First 4 years, then goes to a modified no trade list, then continues as that for the rest.
right?
Guys,
That's
How many
bad.
teams
That's
would
bad.
that?
and to add to
He's
what
gonna want to
Jared,
stay too.
to add what was Jared was
Probably.
saying, the only reason I could see them doing this is if they think he is the perfect
10
piece
team
with
10 team no trade list.
Okay. So listen, as I was saying, I think the only way Knobloch and Bowman think this steal is a steal or why they did this was because they think he's the perfect piece to put next to McDavid or Draisaitl, and he'll complement either of them really well. We don't know what they know, but on paper, it's a lot of money for a depth guy like that, and a lot of
Couldn't agree
churn for a
more.
depth guy like that. And I don't see what they're seeing. Maybe he goes in and drops 50, 60 points next to Connor McDavid, and that deal is a steal for the entirety of his contract. But the
Look, for
likelihood
a
is
guy
not
that in the
that.
playoffs in 22 games had 4 points, giving him 4 years of a no move clause with complete
That's
protection seems
That's
very,
Because he's a
very high.
defensively responsible, physical guy that could plug in minutes in your bottom six, and you paid that guy like he's a middle six scoring forward. Like, there's no rhyme or reason for what they did. I know Maxie mentioned that because of the Isaac Howard deal, you would even throw them in the conversation as a potential winner of the offseason. I like the Isaac Howard deal, but that does not excuse the rest of the
I'm
things
gonna
they
say
did.
one
and
thing.
the lack of going after a goaltender is the
Yes.
main thing that just drops through
Yeah.
offseason for me. I cannot
Yeah.
give them any
I'm
I
going
credit.
to say
would
one
agree with
thing,
that,
which
yes.
I agree with Max on, is the fact that they need to save some money for next summer.
Yes.
McDavid coming up,
They need McDavid.
getting guys that
He's
are
a
still on
former-
their entry level
He's
contract,
the lead.
in my eyes, is such a win-win.
But why did you then overpay Trent Frederick for 8
I'm
years
not arguing that
when
one.
it's going
I'm not-
over?
I'm
It's
not-
gonna
Look,
with the Connor McDavid.
they're trying to
I
find a
agree
way.
with your logic there if that's the actual logic they were playing by, but proof is in the pudding. It's not the logic they're playing by. Because they have no problem giving guys long deals.
The Kane and the
McDavid-
Arvidsson deals made sense to that.
Yes, I
But
agree with that.
everything else that we've talked about aside from that makes literally no sense
Totally
in that
agree.
aspect.
Ryan, Max, do you guys have any other answer to throw in, or should we move on to our, I'd say, the more fun part?
Add something.
Throw in an answer, be a little snappy.
I'm gonna be very short with this. I'm gonna name drop 3 teams and then go into a fourth. So the Sabres, I think they had a horrible offseason. The Capitals had a horrible offseason. The Devils, they also had a horrible offseason. And then I think maybe it's a hot take. I don't know what you guys are thinking. I think the Blue Jackets are a loser of this offseason. I think they locked up
Provorov deal.
Yes, exactly. They locked up Provorov at 7 years, 8.5 mil. That guy, I thought that guy was gonna get even maybe the Gavrikov deal, maybe even a little bit less. And then secondly, I think
even 7 million, even the Gavrikov deal.
Yeah, even 7 million is a bit low.
You got more than that. I think it's a terrible deal for a guy that just has not earned that whatsoever. They obviously have a role for him. They obviously are going to plug him in minutes. You don't give a guy that money if you don't have room for him to be a number one defenseman.
Yeah, but yeah,
you're putting a guy who isn't a number one defenseman in a number one defenseman role.
Yeah,
I would have way rather they go out there and find someone, whether via trade. I know it's hard to find a number one defenseman, but you don't just take like a number 2 defenseman and pay him like a number 1 and say, "Oh, we found one." It doesn't work. Very, very questionable.
Okay, and then secondly about this team is the Coyle Wood trade was so questionable. They traded Brindley, which I like. He's not a bad prospect. They traded a second and a third for 2 horrible contracts. Looking back at that, I don't know what the Blue Jackets are doing. They're taking guys that can't prove themselves.
I do like the Isaac Lunderstrom.
I like that. Yes, I agree with you. But besides that, the Coyle and Wood deal, I don't know what they're thinking there. I don't know what they're thinking trading Brindley, who had a bright future with that team.
I like Dante
with them being young. They're giving. I like that too. I don't like them giving up a second and a third for 2 players who didn't really do much to Avs in the playoffs. Coyle, they had to get rid of after trading Middlestat and picks for him. Like, these guys are cap dumps, and they were able to get a prospect, a second and a third.
Totally ridiculous.
Besides that, yes, Lundestrom, I didn't hate Lundestrom, but I don't think the Blue Jackets, going into next season, they need to think we need to go for more guys, and that's not what they did this year.
Ladies and gentlemen, we've talked about our winners and losers of the offseason, had a lot of opinions that I'm sure you guys will let me know your thoughts on those in the comments. But now, let's shift over to another discussion because there has been a lot of action in Leafs land. Of course, the John.
Oh, yeah.
We love taking just the hair under 4.5, Thank you, Captain Johnny Toronto. For once,
Oh yeah.
it was not all about the money. Then we talk about Matthew Nyes taking a very reasonable deal for the amazing skill that he's shown. We've been dying and crying for a number one left wing and a power forward like Matthew Nyes, and he came in at a reasonable amount. But I think the main things we have to discuss is a whopping 3 deals, because I think everyone could agree the John Tavares deal and the Matthew Nyes deal, they're really, really good. But when you're talking about a grade for how the Leafs offseason went overall, you're talking about really 3 things. It's the Matias Maccelli deal. We're talking about, just as the last few days, the Ryan Reaves trade. And then, of course, it really is an end of an era in Toronto, as Mitch Marner is now a Vegas Golden Knight. Max, just because you're looking at me in the big screen, I'm going to put you on the hot seat. Talk to me about what your thoughts on everything that's going on in Leafs land right now. And if you could wrap it up with a little grade, that would be fantastic. Talk to me.
Okay. So Maccelli first. There's honestly not much to say about it besides it's low risk, high reward. We already talked about this earlier quite a bit with how he was great in Arizona. And I think you put him in a role against next to Johnny T and Willie, potentially even a Matthews Nyes, if he earns that role, he can thrive for sure. There's not much else to say about that. I think it's a great deal. It's a 1 year. If he works out, we extend him or we get more value. If not, it's not that big of a deal. Next,
I got one short thing to say.
Okay.
This is an immediate improvement on your left wing space because the guys you were playing last year was Max Pacioretty, which ended up being a great player for us
in the playoffs.
But Pontus Holmberg. This is an immediate improvement to your right side.
See you later, Pontus.
We're talking about a guy that in his rookie season, we mentioned it a little bit earlier, but he really thrived in Arizona on his rookie season. Kind of struggled a little bit in Utah. So as Max said, it's a low risk, high reward player. But I also really like the condition we added in it based on the fact that it's a low risk, high reward. Well, the original deal is it's just Matias Maccelli for a conditional 3rd round pick. I think his current value with what he showed on, at the time, the Utah Hockey Club last year, this is a player that's worth no more, no less than a 3rd round pick. I like the deal. But I also really like the condition we added. If he ends up putting up over 50 points, so 51 points, as well as if the Leafs end up making the Stanley Cup playoffs, pretty damn important, it ends up bumping to a 2nd round pick. The reason I have no problem with this condition, and in fact, I actually like this condition, is because what are the main things we're dying for? A, to make the playoffs. If we miss the playoffs, I don't even know what's going to happen in Leafs land, but making the playoffs is the easy one. The second one is we need a left winger and some level of depth scoring. Well, I would say getting over 50 points when you're not one of the big guys in the Leafs, that would be as good as depth scoring as you're going to talk about.
3.425 is pretty affordable.
A reasonable amount. So we're talking about a guy that's going to bring depth scoring. I think a 2nd round pick is more than worth it. I like the fact that we're not just blindly giving the 2nd round pick. We're waiting till he earns being worth a 2nd round pick. I think for all parties involved, as we mentioned, his deal does make some sense for the Utah Mammoth, looking to free up some cap space. They had some assets to kill. They clearly wanted to build up some assets as well in order to make the trades they ended up making. So I think it really makes sense for Utah, but I really like it for the Leafs as well. I'm very happy with Matias Maccelli coming to the Leafs. I'm very excited about this player.
I thought it was also, it's pretty interesting, like this is a very long-term pick. If it turns into a 2nd round pick, it is our 2029 2nd round. It's not like we are losing an asset.
Way back in there. That guy is younger than me.
Fuck them picks. We're trying to be competitive out here. We're trying to win a Stanley Cup. We're trying to bring a Stanley Cup back to Toronto. And I'm not exactly worried about a 2nd round pick in 2029. Maybe it'll turn into the reincarnation of Wayne Gretzky. But maybe the Leafs will win a Stanley Cup anyways, and we'll call it a win-win deal.
Exactly.
If we win a cup, I do not care who that player turns into.
Yep. Okay, and then I guess next, very briefly about Reaves. I saw you post this on Twitter, Jared. We got a living, breathing human being on a lesser cap hit for Ryan Reaves. That is A plus by Brad Treliving. I don't know how he did it. I don't know why Mike Greer said, let me throw away this 24-year-old.
Henry Thrun's like not a bad player. I'm not saying he's going to be a regular, but that's like a 6-7 replacement defenseman for a team that look. I was impressed and blown away by Simone Benoit as much as the next guy. But can I reasonably guarantee he's going to replicate that performance next year? Probably not. Having a Simone Benoit 2.0 that could be a 6th or 7th defenseman, he's a little bit younger. The expectation is he's going to turn into something good. Put it this way, I don't know a lot of the names on the San Jose Sharks right now. That's a name that when I was watching the San Jose Sharks, I actually looked at as that's a player. I'm not saying I predicted him coming to the Leafs, but I knew that name when he got traded to us, and that's more than you could say about most San Jose
Yep.
Sharks
Yep.
right now.
For
They were
sure.
playing this guy, 24 minutes a night in the last few weeks of the season. It was
Yeah. They had no one
you
else.
noticed this player, right? So
Good player.
Yes.
I love the deal. We got a guy that I'm actually like reasonably semi excited
Look.
about. I'm not saying he's gonna be, unbelievable, but he's like an okay defenseman that could impress us that we got for a guy that we were begging anyone to take on. Slam dunk
I
home
just
run.
wanted to mention that our average age for the Leafs has reduced substantially, obviously, since getting away from Reaves.
Yeah.
You're starting to
Yes.
notice
Yes.
we're
For
it's
sure.
a new identity. We're getting younger. However,
Mm-hmm.
a reason why I can't say that anything incredible yet is you have not done anything to replace your 100-point player leaving. However,
They're
we
gonna do
have
that
them-
via trade.
Just
It's
we have
clear they're
just
gonna do
to
it via trade.
just to piggyback off of that, I was going to address that very briefly. That's the number one thing. If Treliving can address that, I will say this is a great offseason, and that's maybe why my offseason grade is a bump a little bit lower than some of you guys. But yes, I think a guy like Rickard Rakell would be perfect. I think we trade maybe a
I
first round
I have a
pick.
couple worries with him. I know his cost is going to be high after putting up that 35 goal, 35 assist season. However, he has had other seasons of that, but the season before he put up about 20, I think close to 30 points. He's
Okay.
very hit or
The
miss.
team and who he's playing alongside makes a big difference.
Yes, but he's playing
On the
alongside
Leafs,
Matthews
he's
and
going
Matthew
to be
Nyes.
playing
Yes,
with
he's
tons of
going. He's going to be around that player, maybe a little bit less, maybe shrink that to 60 points, 30 and 30. But I think if you can put that up with a Sid, who obviously there's nothing else to say besides Sid being
Why can't you
great.
put him with a Matthews? I agree.
Exactly. Why can't you put him with Matthews and Nyes? And leading into the last little bit of this segment for me with Mitch Marner, honestly, there's not a whole lot to say. I don't know. I think some people may have different opinions, but for me, I'm like, bye bye, pack your bags. I think it's
Okay.
time we moved on. It's time we moved on. Maybe it should have been a lot earlier than this. Maybe not a lot, but at least 2
maybe
years
before
older.
his trade protection.
Before
That would have been
okay.
nice.
I won't blame Treliving for the fact he had to he
I don't
got to
blame
take on the
Treliving.
Leafs GM role like a few weeks before that and then move clause kicked in.
I do
But at the
not
same
blame
time,
Brad Treliving for that. I'm
bye
looking
bye
at
Marner.
Shanahan. I'm looking at not
think
even
to-
Dubas, honestly. There's a lot of
It's
can blame
Shanahan.
Dubas for.
It's Shanahan.
It's Shanahan. That's a Shanahan.
It's fully Shanahan. I think some of the moves that have been made in the past few years, and you look back, oh, Dubas made a horrible move. Oh, Treliving made a horrible move. That's not them. That's Shanahan saying the green light or pushing it.
Not always. I will say
Not
like
always,
that is kind of a
but part of the
cop out. You
time.
can't say no GM is worthy of blame at all. But it
Okay,
is
yes.
clear there was a puppet master in Brendan Shanahan
100%.
steering the ship a little bit, and
Mhm.
his decisions were questionable to say the least. Quickly round it out with your grade, and then I'm going to move over to Dylan.
Okay. So yeah, that being said, my grade is a B. I think we could have done I think we could do more. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm happy that we got at least something back, Nick Waugh for Marner. But yeah, a B. And let's go on with what you guys think.
Dylan, talk to me.
I can pretty much echo everything Max said. You guys got into it a lot. With Marner, I've seen the edits. Like I'm depressed that he's gone. I feel the same about.
I'm more on your side than
Yeah,
Matt. I'll say
it's
that.
I'm on Max's side. Love you.
I have a buddy who if he watches he'll know who he is. He's like blind to thinking the Marner. Why would we lose Marner? It makes our team so much worse.
Yeah,
That's a given.
wrong too.
I actually think that's the given. Like that's a given.
Sorry,
Losing on your point score, that's a given.
We're a worse team with Marner leaving, but it also like needed to happen. I don't think you
That's-
keep whining
Yep.
and
That's my
why did
point.
we do this? It's clear why we did this. But yes,
Yeah.
we are a worse team on paper with Mitch Marner gone.
And that's what my friend's kind of thinking on paper. It makes literally zero sense. Therefore, it makes zero sense to do the move. But I think we're all in agreement that it had to happen. Like Albert Einstein said, I believe it's Albert Einstein. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over again and thinking you're going to get a different result. Okay, so it was the right move. This team might not win a cup, the 2025-2026 Leafs, but there's a really good free agency class next year, and we have cap space and we could make some moves, and this team is still very good as well. I think for the greater of the team, this was the right move. I'm sad to see him go, but to add on to what Max was saying, Nick Wall is a very solid depth piece. I think the bottom six that we have now, or the middle six, you could say, the bottom nine even, is probably one of the best bottom nines Matthews and Nylander have ever had in their career. Now that Marner's
What have
gone.
we been talking about when Marner goes? I mean, the problem with a core four to begin with is how do you round out the rest of the roster? Well, proof is kind of in the pudding. We're going to be able to round out the rest of our roster way better now. It's no secret that it's going to improve in terms of the
Yep.
bottom nine below
Yep.
the Austin Matthews
For
line.
sure.
It's inevitable it's going to improve.
Yep.
And so Vegas also gave him a lot of money. They gave him a shitload of money. And
8 years, 12 mil.
say I wanted
thought it
him
was
to
worth
come.
it.
Bold move.
It's a good deal with Vegas.
Yeah, it was.
I think he's gonna be very happy there. I think that is a good deal. I won't lie. Like because
I
apparently
wasn't comfortable
we're
with doing
offering
that.
about $1 million more. I'm not saying I would have liked $12 million. If it was like 11.5, like I would have brought him back. But
Look,
it was time.
My other problem was
Well, that's
his
your
head
right
was
back.
clearly out the door.
Because that's the problem. If he wanted to be here, it's a different conversation. But he wanted to leave. Why are we keeping a guy that clearly doesn't want to be here?
Yeah.
Obviously,
For sure.
we offered like in around the 13 million mark, which I would have been very mad because a player that clearly wanted out, you're offering him the sun and the moon to try to make him stay, but it's clear his head was just out the door. He wanted out.
He checked out. He mentally checked out in Four Nations when he asked Mark Stone about Vegas.
Not even that. I would say it was quite a bit before. You watch his mentality in the playoffs. I think shortly after he was given trade protections. Now, it's no coincidence that when he was given a chance to leave, that's in and around the time where he was getting married and then his wife was pregnant. But like in terms of the hockey side of things, if there was no family factor to this conversation, I think shortly after he was given a choice over where he's going to play and he was given full responsibility to make that decision, he was mentally done in about 2024. I think like the time to trade him or get rid of him was before his NMC kicked in. We gave him all the opportunity to make a decision there. And he used that advantage to turn down deals that would have brought guys like Mikko Rantanen and places like that, or players like that to Toronto.
Yep.
And he was mentally checked out a while ago.
Yeah, it's sad to see such a fun player and such a like lovely and just joyful guy just end such in a toxic way. And when I'll think back in 10 years, I'll think about all the happy moments we had. But I'll also think about how
it kind of is.
It's so much
it's
like that.
There was a fit for so long, and then it became very clear that
it's toxic. Yeah.
There was no future there. It's the right decision for both parties involved to go their separate ways, and somehow sometimes it's the saddest but the most true result. That is just ultimately what needs to happen in some situations. Dylan, I'm going to ask you, what is your grade?
Yeah, so with that being said, I really liked how they did get back Nick Wall. And echoing what Max said about Maccelli, his Zeta contract was good too. I'm gonna give it a B plus. Same kind of deal. They had room for improvement. They still could sign Roslovich. They still have some cap space.
That's what I was. Yeah,
it's very heavily rumored they're looking at Roslovich. I will say, I want them to do more. For the first time in a long time, we talked about teams having fuck you money. Well, I'm not saying the Leafs are in that ballpark, but they do have some cap.
They could be.
Side. I want them to flex their muscles a little bit.
We have $5 million.
They're another one of these contending teams that actually has a rare glimpse of cap space to their name, and I want them to use it a little bit on something a little bit more. Put it this way, I want people around the league that it takes a lot for people around the league to give the Leafs credit because we get it. We're in Toronto. We understand how our fan base is and whatever. I get why the Leafs are not a popular fan base. But because of that, it takes a lot for people to objectively say they believe in the Leafs team. I want the Leafs to do something that makes people around the league turn their heads and go, holy fuck, the Leafs in a post-Marner era are for real. To me, Jack Roslovic, he's a fine player.
He can be a part of that.
I think we just
can be a part of that
player in Nick Wall. I think that is kind of the player we got. Agree. Nick Wall, I actually think it wows me more than Jack Roslovic does. He
But
doesn't.
the Leafs get
I
the Leafs
I
can
think
also dump an extra. Sorry, Don. I'll be quick. The Leafs can also dump an extra 4.5 mil with Camp and Yarncroke. That's all I'm gonna say.
Which needs to happen. That so needs to happen, which is,
yeah.
I'm going to get into my answers now. Why I'm going to start with my grade. Put it that way. I'm going to go a little revert. I'm going to slim shady on it. I'm going to start with my answer and then get to my problem. I'm not comfortable putting the Leafs in the A category because it's very clear, they have things to do. They're not done, which isn't a bad thing, but they're not done. They're objectively, I'd say, right now, probably a worse team than they were last year. That's a given when you lose an 100-point player, but they have clear things to do that they haven't done yet. It was said that the Leafs were going to go after a guy in free agency. And fair enough, there wasn't really a guy there. Ehlers clearly
Look,
outpriced
Marchand
himself.
didn't hit the market.
Marchand is the guy that we had all eyes on, and that didn't work out. Ehlers was too expensive for us. We didn't do it. I'm giving the Leafs a B+. I think they had a great offseason. I'm very happy with a lot of the things they did, but we're grading a painting right now because there's still things to do. Camp and Yarncroc, bye-bye. Those are guys I'm waving out the door that just need to go in terms of really turning a new leaf and giving us the cap space to really wow some teams. You can't do that when you have contracts like that on the books right now. I've talked about it. There's a reason I've brought it up so much. I really, really like the Matias Maccelli gamble. It's not a gamble I thought was going to happen, but the moment it did happen, we were walking around visiting our older brother Kyle's new school in Chicago. And when that notification came up, I was genuinely excited about this player because it's a player that I mentioned there's only a few shining bright lights when you're watching a San Jose Sharks game when I was mentioning Henry Thrun. Matias Maccelli a few years ago when you're watching an Arizona Coyotes game,
He's the
that
guy.
was one of the only players worth watching. I really like
Yeah.
that.
I think like when we got Bunting, like it's kind of like this, but I'm even more excited.
Okay, put it this way. This guy's more expensive than Bunting when we got him for valid reason. He's had more years of a proven sample size. This player was pretty exciting in Arizona. Let's see what happens if we give him league minimum. And he played so few games in Arizona that he was still eligible to be a Rookie of the Year nomination in the following year. So I think it's a totally different situation, but I'd say I'm equally excited about both. I was excited about Bunting. I'm very excited about Maccelli. The main thing I want to get into is I know Max and Ryan's standpoint on things, and I think they're right for the wrong reason. I'm excited about the next chapter. I think it was time to move on from Mitch Marner, but I think two things could be true at the same time. It's okay to say, yeah, it was the right time for these parties to move on. It's the best thing for both these parties to move on. But it's also still true to say it's sad that that needed to happen. It's sad that we're in this outcome where a player that when he was drafted by Toronto, it was like this perfect storm where happy-go-lucky Toronto-born kid that grew up a Leafs fan drafted by his hometown team. And not only that, when he was drafted, it was like, okay, he's a little small. There were some nitpicks with him. I hope he's a 70, 80-point guy. And he trampled those expectations, turned into anything like way more than we thought he was going to be. It's sad that this is the outcome we got. It's sad that that player in his final game as a Leaf, when he was so excited to be drafted by us, was booed off the ice and had beer chucked at him as he was walking off the ice in Scotiabank Arena for the final time. It's sad that he's going to come here as a Vegas Golden Knight, and the moment he touches the puck is going to be boo-bombed every time he's on the ice there. It's sad that this is the outcome that we're at, but it's the right thing, and I am excited for the next chapter of Leafs hockey. B+ is my answer. The Marner era is done. Henry Thrun is exciting. Brad Treliving's been absolutely cooking. And I like the fact that a guy like Matias Maccelli and Henry Thrun are names that no one had on the radar. With Kyle Dubas, it felt almost predictable. We kind of knew the names that were floating around, and one of those names he was going to check off. Brad Treliving does stuff that no one expects, and I'm just waiting for him to do something else because I want to be able to bump my grade into the A conversation, but we're not there yet. Ryan, send us home.
I'm gonna stick around the B to B- range. Look, you still
have okay.
We still have a guy like Camp and Yarncroc that are eating up cap. Plus, they have
eating up cap,
which isn't obviously
his fault. But
however,
find a way to work some magic, and that would earn him an A. I see what
right. So again,
which is why he hasn't earned that A yet.
We don't have that Marner replacement per se. If I really do as well want him to go in on something that's a little crazy, right? Like Raquel would be an incredible piece. I completely agree. Guy that actually is big, he can hit, plus he can score.
But you're not getting him for that. You're getting him for depth scoring, which
Exactly.
you talk about
Depth and
for a long time.
top
It's like,
scorer.
for the longest time with Edmonton, it's like, how are they not seeing these flaws on their team? That was me watching the Leafs at the deadline saying, okay, great, we got Carlo. Great, we got Lawton. Defensively responsible forward, really defensively responsible, big body, 6'5" defenseman. Where's the depth scoring? What happens if our core four doesn't show up? And that's the ultimate thing that ended up happening.
Pacioretty, but yes.
Yeah.
Yes, 100%.
There was a clear lap. I'm not talking about when we were winning and beating Ottawa. I'm talking about when the going got tough, we needed guys to step up. And we didn't really have someone like that to step up and carry them all the way.
So I'll say,
I
wanted to touch on this when the Marner situation. I don't as much when I look at the Leafs. Like, I'm not obsessed with a single player. I love the team,
Absolutely.
right? And he was obviously a guy on the team, but the team wasn't doing well, and we weren't doing well for a long time. And it was clear that it wasn't enough. Paying paying $12 million on him, plus having Matthews at $13 million. Nye's now at $7.7 million in change. It was like, I'm not saying I'm worried per se, but I'm like, we need to try something more. It's not good enough not going to the conference finals any one of these years, not touching the Stanley Cup finals. It's not good enough, right? Like, I don't obsess over the player. I obsess over the team.
I don't obsess over the player, but I'm just saying it's sad that this is the outcome that needs to happen because by all logic, just speaking not specific on the Leafs, just thinking objectively, any team would like to add a 100-point player to their team, right? You'd think any team would be better having a player on their team. It's sad that player fundamentally could not rise to the occasion. He cowered under the pressure of this play rather than rising to it. It's sad that that's the outcome we're in, but that is the outcome we're in nonetheless. And I think it's okay to say you're sad that the era ended the way it ended, but you're also able to say it needed to end, and I'm looking forward to the next chapter.
I'm waiting for a star to take a spot and steal that number 16.
That would be so great.
It's gonna be Domi. It's gonna be Domi who does that.
If Brad Marchand came, I would beg for him to take number 16. I think a 16 Marchand jersey.
Fellas, forget about 16. Next year, 97 motherfuckers. Let's go.
Well, that's what I was alluding to here.
McDavid's next.
We're all comfortable in the B category, so I think it's clear that we're all somewhat in the same realm. Brad's doing a good job. That's the only way to spin it. There's no way other than that. He's doing a great job, and I think we all have a reason to be excited about the Leafs next year. So let's get into next year and talk about our way too early playoff predictions, something I've been very excited to do because I always find until you actually sit down and think about these things, in the offseason, any team, we're going to be the Stanley Cup winner next year. It's only when you sit down and cook it up that you start to think about, okay, who legitimately has an argument? And this is why I want to get into it. I'm going to get our guests to start first. Talk to me. Whichever one of you is eager to go, I want to hear your final four teams. So you'd think you're winner of every conference, but you could potentially have a wild card team going all the way. Your final four. Then I want to hear your finalists, your cup winner, and last but not least, your playoff MVP. And if it's a good enough take, I might be going back on Bet365 later and looking if I could get some found money on either of your predictions. So thank you for the free betting advice.
Max, want to go ahead?
Okay, that's probably a good idea for me to go first because I'm going to go a little bit boring. So first in the East, we got a rematch of this coming year as 2023, Panthers Hurricanes. I feel like it's a little bit predictable.
So that would be 4 years in a row they at least make the conference finals.
I think it's a bit predictable, and at the same time, I think very possible to happen. But definitely this time around, I think the Hurricanes put up a bit more of a fight, and Panthers in 6 this time. I think.
Okay, so Panthers are going back to the finals.
Yes, I think that was pretty self-explanatory when I told you my conference finals were. But yes, I'm bumping up another game this time in 6. Panthers in 6. I think Hurricanes will learn. Hurricanes are learning over time.
DeAndre Miller, that first round pick, second round pick, paid dividends.
Hopefully somebody else, Mika, whoever else, Panthers in 6, and then I'm gonna go very boring again. I'm gonna repeat the exact same thing, the West Conference
3
Finals
years
again.
in a row.
I'm being boring. I understand it, but I'm only going off of what I've seen these past years and what I've seen during the offseason and who I think will step up when push comes to shove. So Oilers versus Stars. And this time I have a different outcome for the first time. I have Stars winning in 7. I having it being
Okay, I was worried you had this again, and I was gonna lose. I was
yeah,
gonna lose
no,
my
no,
shit.
no. I think it's close. I think the Stars are gonna manage to find their way to get past that bump, find their way in the finals for the first time since 2020, I believe it was.
Yep.
I think they're going to find their way back. They're finally going to go over the hump, beat the Oilers. Maybe they have a bit worse of a team this year with losing Granlund, but also the trade deadline comes around. They still have picks to use. Yes, they traded 2 firsts and 2 thirds to get Granlund and I mean not Granlund, Miko, and they traded picks to get CC and Granlund, but that was last year. So they still have picks to work with, and I think this year their depth is going to help out more than it did, and they're going to win 7. And then now we're going to the finals with Panthers versus Stars. And I have this being an extremely close matchup. They both teams have the depth, both teams have the scoring, both teams have the defense, both teams have the goaltending. It's a very even matchup on every possible side of the ice. And I have the Panthers winning again.
Back
So I'm
to
very
back to back.
I'm aware I'm very boring with my picks, and it's very predictable with
You
being
can't
last
mess
year
with
and the year
the
before.
back-to-back champions.
But
Like you
you
can't
can't
argue it.
exactly you can't. But I have it being a close matchup as well. In 7, like I said, they match up pretty evenly in every single position wise and skill wise. Maybe Stars defense is a tiny bit better. Besides that, I think they're even in every single category. I have the Panthers barely squeezing out in 7. And then for my Finals MVP, there's a lot of guys. Look, there's a Marchand, there's a Bennett, there's a Bobrovsky, there's a Kachuk, there's a Barkov, there's maybe even a Seth Jones or Forsling or Ekblad if they really prove themselves. But I have it going to Reinhardt this time. I have this goal scoring being the main factor. I have him putting at a ton of goals against whoever they face. Maybe it's Tampa and Toronto again, and he can just put in a ton of goals. But yes, I have Reinhardt being the Conn Smythe winner with the Panthers beating the Stars in 7 games.
I wish I could turn around and be like, I like it, but I really don't. It totally can happen, and I hate that it totally could happen. There are very few teams in NHL history I hate more than like this iteration of the Florida Panthers. Such an unlikable group of jerks, but they're so fucking good at hockey. They're so good at getting under your skin. They're exactly what the Boston Bruins of the 2010s wished they were. I know they got one Stanley Cup out of this, but to me, okay, I think fans that like, and I got into hockey in the early 2010s, but like, I don't know if those 2010s Bruins rivaled this era of the Florida Panthers in terms of getting under your skin and being just dirty
Yes.
bunch of assholes.
They match up perfectly against any team. The Leafs, look, the Leafs took those first 2 games. I know I sound like a broken record going over the same things over and over, but the Leafs took those first 2 games because the Panthers weren't fully ready. And what the Panthers do so annoyingly good with Paul Maurice is they adapt. They adapt to whatever team they face. They adapted to the Leafs way too well. They took a mental toll on the Leafs, and they keep doing it over and over, and they will again with Marchand and Kachuk. They just I don't know what else to say. I'm just saying the same things.
They're
But
the
all I
Florida
can say
Panthers.
are they're the Florida
They're the
Panthers.
Florida
Exactly.
Panthers.
They're the Florida Panthers, and there's not much else to say besides I think they have the will to do it again and again and again until their guys become too old and too bad, which won't
Ryan,
happen for
I
so
actually want
long.
to hear from you next on your answer. I think we'll do a little flip-flop where we go from Max to Ryan to Dylan, and then I'll end off the show. Talk to me.
All right. So I have from the Atlantic, I have the Leafs in the Final Four.
Oh, shit.
Okay. And I have them playing the New York Rangers in the conference finals.
I appreciate
In the off season, that's what I
appreciate
thought
the
we were trending
focus.
towards.
Now, on the other side, I have the Dallas Stars versus
Okay.
the Vegas Golden Knights. And
Okay.
I truly believe our finals
gonna be
next
Marner.
year is going to be the Marner reunion.
Yeah.
Oh,
shit.
no.
That
Feeling
that
it.
would be scary.
Oh, no. Talk to me.
I'm feeling
See,
it.
this interests me.
Look,
Boring Max
I was
over there.
hoping for
This
some funky business.
so the reason why right now it's very hard to, I guess, believe is because of the fact that we haven't made that splash via trade, via signings yet. That's been like, okay, this team's legit. They can actually be a finals team. But I know it's coming. I know it's going to be big. I know it's going to be exciting. We are going to take those
It's
Panthers
itching at you.
and we are going to take those pussies the fuck out of here. All right.
the
Get out of
Pussycats are going running.
town.
Who's your MVP?
Finals MVP. So I have the Leafs winning. I don't know if I stated
Oh, I think that was
it
Okay.
good. I figured that one.
I didn't know if I stated that yet, but I am going to take no other. Look, it's gonna be surprising. No
Riley?
other than Morgan Riley.
Oh,
I think it's gonna be a
yeah.
balance.
Mo
He's
show.
staying. You don't believe any of these trade rumors. You think he is staying,
Look,
and he's proven why he's
I
valuable.
want to see a year. Give me a year with Carlo. I know I'm
It
very
shocks me that this is
judgmental.
coming from him because I'm usually like, no, Riley in the playoffs steps up. I know he's not great in the regular season. He steps up in the playoffs. He's usually the biggest Morgan Riley denier. So
Something
this interests me.
I'm feeling it. I'm feeling it.
Okay.
Okay.
I like it. Dylan,
I
like it.
Dylan,
I
talk
like
to
it.
me.
Before I get back to boring land, I do want to say a couple sleepers I do have is Tampa because I do think with the Leafs getting worse, they could finagle in there. And we did think that they did have a chance against Florida last year. They still have a really good team. I also think that my hot take is that LA takes down Edmonton. If they do play against round one, like
I thought it was
we
gonna
talked about, I think LA is better than they were last year. The contracts they got were terrible, but I do think they are a better team than last year. So I do think they can close it out against the Oilers. With that being said, like I said, I'm gonna take us back to boring land. I actually had the exact same Final Four as we saw in 2023: Vegas, Dallas, Carolina, Florida. Um, I think everybody. I think Max had the same Eastern Conference Finals and Ryan had the same Western Conference Finals, so I don't want to talk about it too much with those teams. I just think one thing is just inevitable as fuck, which is that Mitch Marner will become a playoff god
It's
in
gonna
that
happen.
Vegas.
It's gonna happen.
Yeah. And so I feel pretty
Is
good
it gonna
about Vegas.
happen the way you have it happening right now?
We'll
What are
see.
you cooking here?
So I do think the Panthers will come back to the finals as well. They're just stacked. They're scrappy. I do think if it's not the Leafs, which it's going to be the Leafs, right? But if it's not the Leafs, then it's Florida.
McDavid at the
And
deadline.
and so I think Vegas beats Dallas. I just don't think Dallas has that it factor. I went in the series this year, like when they played against Edmonton, and I was fairly confident they'd take down the Oilers, and they got absolutely mangled. Like I just don't think they have the it factor. I don't know what it is. Their depth is
So
retardedly good.
they have made the Final Four. I believe it's every year since 2023, unless I'm missing one. I'm pretty sure they've been in the
You're not.
2020. Oh no, they have every single year.
They have every single year, 2023, and then 2020.
So it's gonna be four. It's gonna be 4 years in a row. You're gonna have them making the conference finals and losing.
for sure. Like they're my Central Division favorites. No team comes close to me.
Yep.
And they don't like if Edmonton gets there, then I don't see them getting close to Edmonton. If Vegas gets there, I don't see them getting close to Vegas. Like they just don't have the it factor to me in my
I
mind.
believe they would beat the Edmonton Oilers. Vegas worries me just because, like, as a Leafs fan, look, I would take any Stanley Cup final series. I'll put that out there right now. But when I, project potential finals matchups, there isn't, I think, a series in the NHL that scares me more than the Leafs playing the Vegas Golden Knights. Florida wears you down and they're also really annoying. Vegas is just big. Vegas just crumbles you. Like, Florida has big guys, but they're also a fast-moving team. They cycle, they forecheck, they outskate you. Vegas doesn't really do that. They just crumble you. And that terrifies me.
Remember the regular season game in Vegas this last season with the Leafs and the Knights? Like they just destroyed us.
That was
Like,
bad.
Absolutely.
It wasn't
That
even
was bad.
close. And so
Dylan, I am going to ask you to, just in the name of time, Who's
Yeah.
your finals and who's your
Yeah,
MVP?
let me get to it. So I do think the Panthers will get redemption against Vegas in the finals with the rematch from 2023, 2023. I think they'll win 6, and I think a winner that we haven't seen perform like out of his mind this run, will be the guy that the Panthers go to next year, which is Matthew Tkachuk. So that's my pick. Tkachuk
Florida
hunts my
Panthers. So
Panthers
you
in
guys
6.
both have the three-peat happening.
Yes,
Yep.
Loser.
pretty
I'll put it
confident.
this
Pretty
way.
confidently.
I'm gonna be totally honest. I didn't even think the two-peat was happening. I really believed any outcome other than them going back to back. I did not believe it with the Florida Panthers because, as I'm gonna get to, I do not believe the Florida Panthers, and I have a board by the way. I do not believe the Florida
Oh,
Panthers are a flawless team by any means. Their mentality and the way they outwork teams, it's absolutely terrifying. They also are a very skilled team. It's no secret that they've gone back to back. But coming out of the Atlantic Division, I do have the Toronto Maple Leafs taking them down because I believe the Toronto Maple Leafs were capable of taking them down this year. Not just, yeah, they're up 2-0, yada, yada, yada. I think comparing the rosters on paper and the skill on paper, I straight up will go as far as to say the Leafs are the better team. The Florida Panthers have the better mindset. They're more physical. They have those, playoff physicality things that you always like. But I think the Leafs not only just played down to them, they straight up let the Florida Panthers win. They stopped playing. They had a big lead and they just hit the pause button and they didn't even put up much of a fight. I think the Leafs, when they're playing at their best, when they have the mindset, they saw what happened last year when they let their foot off the gas and Florida steamrolled their way to another Stanley Cup. The Leafs make it out of the Atlantic Division. Coming out of the Metro, it almost seems like they have a free pass there by the Carolina Hurricanes. I really think they have a free pass. I think they are going to go up against the New York Rangers in the second round, but I think the Carolina Hurricanes make it there. Coming out of the Central Division, the Dallas Stars. I agree with you. I don't think there's a team in the Central Division that takes them down. But coming out of the Pacific Division, hold up. Newsflash. Is that the Colorado Avalanche? The wild card Colorado Avalanche that'll take down
oh
the
no.
Vegas Golden Knights in round one as the wild card team. They'll take out, I'm going to say, the Edmonton Oilers in round two as a wild card team. And then, like you guys have for the fourth year in a row, the Dallas Stars failed to rise to the occasion in the conference finals. The Colorado Avalanche have some problems. Yes, they do. They're not a flawless team, but they have cap space and they have a Nathan fucking MacKinnon that has been ousted in the first or second round each time since winning a Stanley Cup in 2022. 2022 is in the rear view mirror at this point. The Colorado Avalanche take on the Toronto Maple Leafs in the Stanley Cup finals. I'd say on paper, I like the Leafs in that series. But we've had trouble with some mean and hungry players. I think when fire is lit under his ass, there isn't a scarier force in the NHL than Nathan fucking MacKinnon. He did not win the Conn Smythe Trophy because Cale Makar won it in 2022. It's about time that Nathan MacKinnon leads his Colorado Avalanche back to the top of the Rocky Mountains. And that's why I believe the Leafs get close, but not close enough, and Colorado will be my cup pick.
Okay. I can't
Quickly,
wait to
what are
look
our
back on
thoughts?
this. I can't wait to look back on this in a year and see how good or probably bad our takes
The
The
will end up
more the
more-
being.
more likely outcome would be bad, I'll say that.
The Utah Mammoth are winning the cup.
Fully might happen. Gentlemen, I am going to round this thing off with a bow and send her home. Thank you so much for bringing the takes into the kitchen. I told you guys if you can't handle the heat,
You
stay
guys
out
will
of the
be back.
kitchen.
You guys will be back.
But you guys brought the heat, and we very much thank you guys for coming here. We would love to have you guys again. Take care and enjoy the rest of your summer. Thank you guys.
Thank you, boys.
Thank you guys so much for having
Thank
us
you.
on.
Thank you.
Peace.